Titans 52-14. Falcons win at the Buccaneers 31-26. Bills win at the Seahawks 31-10. Buffalo 6-2. Packers on a last-second field goal beat the Jaguars on the road 30-27. Texans get by the Colts 23-20. Houston 6-2. Eagles handle the Bengals on the road 37-17. Chargers over the Saints 26-8. Broncos beat the Panthers 28-14. I'm Eddie Garcia.
1620 The Zone is giving away $25,000. To celebrate our 25th anniversary, we're giving you a chance to win $2,500 every week during the football season with a $25K four-quarter pick'em. Pick 10 games curated by us every week straight up. And if your right picks were in first, the money is all yours. Pick on 1620thezone.com.
Come on, let's go!
Subscribe to our email for exclusive early access to get your picks in before anyone else. The 25K four-quarter pick'em. Powered by Dr. Justin Makovica with MD West 1.
Thanks, Doc.
And Ribshack.
Welcome to the Ribshack.
And on 1620 The Zone.
Breezy and warming up to start the week Monday. Partly to mostly cloudy skies with south winds gusting 20 to 30 miles per hour, highs in the upper 70s. Staying breezy and mild overnight with lows in the mid-60s. Windy and warmer Tuesday. Very high fire danger with south-southwest winds gusting up to 40 miles per hour, highs in the mid-80s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time-Saving Traffic Center. Happy Monday. No accidents report right now in the Omaha area. Heads up, there looks to be some lane restrictions on 75 northbound from K Park to Q Street. And there looks to be a residential road closed on 143rd Avenue Meadows Parkway to Jennifer Road, just south of Giles. You also could see some delays on 36 and L going both ways. Make sure to keep your seatbelts buckled and eyes on the road. I'm Jake Janisek.
This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Modern Real Estate.
Introducing Modern Real Estate, the game changer in Nebraska's property market. They make buying, selling, and investing more affordable and transparent than ever. You're in control of how and where your money is spent. Visit modernrealestateco.com and experience the future of real estate today.
Velocity Clinical Research in Omaha conducts clinical trials for investigational treatments and research. Typical studies involve medications for high cholesterol, diabetes, infectious diseases, and acne. Some current studies include low T, RSV, fall influenza, pediatric obesity ages 12 to 17, adult obesity, and asthma. Velocity also performs vaccine studies. Studies are medically supervised and do not require insurance. Velocity recognizes your time is valuable, so they offer compensation for study-related time and travel. Find out more at velocityclinicaltrials.com.
Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is always looking to make your game day bigger and better. Cheer on your favorite team this season in front of a 22-foot LED video wall showing up to 8 games at once. TVs are everywhere else you can look with a state-of-the-art audio and video system. Enjoy a big old pizza or award-winning char-buffed wings. There's just no better way to do your game day. Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, 173rd and West Center Road. And for takeout at 162nd and Maple.
Husker Preview Monday is powered by McKinnis Roofing and Sheet Metal, Nebraska and Iowa's go-to choice since 1981. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, sheet metal, or repairs. Their team delivers quality you can rely on. For commercial or residential projects, trust McKinnis Roofing and Sheet Metal. Visit McKinnisInc.com.
Woodhouse Nissan offers a convenient and streamlined way to purchase your next vehicle. Browse our full lineup of SUVs like the spacious and versatile Nissan Pathfinder or the adventure-ready Nissan Rogue. We have a vehicle to fit every lifestyle. Lease the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder S for just $381 per month. Shop our current offers going on right now at woodhousenissan.com or woodhouseplacenissan.com today. Browse our extensive inventory, customize your monthly payment plan, apply for financing, and have your new vehicle delivered to you nationwide. This is Woodhouse Nissan. 36 months, 5,000 miles per year. With approved credit. Tax title license extra. $2,999 down plus first payment and $299 doc fee due at signing. Discounted price based on sale price of $38,250. VIN number RC304073. Offer expires October 31st, 2024. See dealer for details.
I'm Chris Rose with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders stunned the Bears on a 52-yard Hail Mary to Noah Brown as time expired. Washington wins by 3 and improves to 6-2. Patrick Mahomes tossed 2 touchdowns to beat the Raiders by 7. Chiefs improved to 7-0. Jameis Winston making his first start in 2 years threw 3 touchdowns. Browns stunned the Ravens 29-24. Jared Goff threw 3 touchdowns. Lions dominated the Titans 52-14. Kirk Cousins 4 more touchdown passes as the Falcons topped the Bucs 31-26. Josh Allen tossed 2 touchdowns in the Bills' 31-10 road win at Seattle. Jalen Hurts 4 total touchdowns. Eagles their first ever win in Cincinnati 37-17. Cardinals beat the Dolphins on a game-winning field goal. Packers with a game-winning field goal of their own down in Jacksonville. And on Sunday Night Football, the Niners took care of the Cowboys by 6. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
All right, when it comes to getting life insurance for your family, a lot of excuses can get in the way. But ask yourself this. If something were to happen to me, who would pay the mortgage, the kids' education, and the other bills? Then forget the excuses and check out Ethos Life, the online, easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates that you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month with a few health questions and no medical exam. Get your free quote right now at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Rates do vary.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Join me, John Bishop, and Josh Peterson for a special Big Red Watch Party and Big Red Overreaction from Cross Drain Brewing in La Vista. Great beer, food trucks, bring your own food, maybe even your bowling shoes. Big Red Overreaction and Husker Watch Party this Saturday from Cross Drain Brewing in La Vista on 1620 The Zone.
I'm at the movies, asking people if they'll switch seats with me for $574.
Here, take mine.
So what about $574 if you switch your home insurance to Allstate?
Too much work.
Not if you call them. They handle the switching.
Now, that's a plot twist.
Shh. Check Allstate first, and you could save hundreds on quality home insurance today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Not available in every state. Based on the national average annual savings for new home insurance customers surveyed in 2023 who switched to Allstate and reported savings. Savings vary.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer PowerMop.
Introducing the new Swiffer PowerMop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer PowerMop. Swiffer PowerMop.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees, The Source, by your mom's house.
1620 The Zone.
Over there. So here's John Holt. Made one earlier from 39. 54-yard attempt. High snap. It's down. The kick sailing towards the uprights. And the kick is good. John Holt with a 54-yard field goal in the final play of the half.
Sometimes you just got to speak it into existence, Sharpie. And if I'm Nebraska, get out of your fields and go play football. You can pull this off.
Dell's the back. Huskers break the huddle. Under center goes Raiola. Huskers go quick, turn, give it off to Dante, right side, leans, dives, touchdown, Nebraska. Dante Dowdell puts the Big Red in front, 15-14. Empty set, back to go, fake the handoff, shovel pass in there. Porkature makes the catch on the shovel pass. Nebraska gets 2 more. It's a 17-14 Husker lead. Howard motions a man out. 6 on the play clock. Snap back, Howard looking left. Holding, throwing to the far pylon, pass caught, touchdown, Buckeyes, they're back in front.
That's a hold, too. That's okay. Okay.
Judkins shook the coverage and was backpedaling into the end zone when Howard found him. It's now a 2017 Ohio State lead.
For those of us who believe in the long way, the hard way, for those of us who haven't had things handed to us, for those of us who believe in building, for those people who believe in putting in an honest day's work, I hope while they're disappointed, they're proud of what they saw, of what they competed. And while I yelled at the officials sometimes and all that, our players didn't let it bother them. Our players just continued to compete.
Thought we played with class and dignity. We had a chance to win. So I know that's long. I know it's hard. I don't say that to justify what we're doing. I'm saying that so our players will understand why I'm so proud. Not satisfied. That's very, very, very important. There are no moral victories, but proud. But proud.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
I just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a Monday where, it's so much better when it's Victory Monday and when we can all celebrate together. Brothers in arms, sisters in arms. We can all celebrate a victory. Mondays are always better that way. I'll tell you, we're going to have a lot to talk about today because I just want both of you to know. Okay? Just want both of you to know. On this glorious Monday, the 28th of October, with Halloween right around the corner and darkness coming next Sunday.
Yeah.
When daylight savings time comes
it arrived
to an
last
end. Hello, darkness, my old friend.
That was me last night.
You've got the Bears and Cowboys on the show. The Chiefs are 7-0. I just want both of you to know that to start the show.
So I guess they ended up losing last night, as I expected.
Whoa. You didn't know that?
Halftime, I was like, we're done.
They had a
Right?
they
You should
had
have
a
seen
shot.
the third quarter. You would have you probably would have gone out. You probably would have had to go outside and have a smoke.
I've had enough for one weekend.
I just want you two to know that's how we're going to start today because I want you guys to know that this is a safe place. Now, it might be not Marcus Satterfield safe, but it is a safe place for both of you just to let it out after what happened yesterday. Now, the NFL is the greatest reality show going, and the witching hour is a banger.
That was fun.
And no one gives up about National Tight End Day, but
except for the Niners.
You two, no one cares. No one cares about National Tight End Day. Shut up.
Thank you.
Okay? No one cares about it. Quit promoting it. It's not a holiday. It's a fake holiday like National Banana Bread Day. Okay. But with that said, I'm just going to let both of you have your moment.
This is all you, Nick. I'm apathetic.
No, you got. Hey, you can let it out. I mean,
you should have heard me Saturday night.
I mean, America has Dallas and the Giants to look forward to on Thanksgiving.
Oh, what a nap. What a nap that's going to be.
All right, go ahead. I'm just going to sit back. This is a safe place. Just don't swear. All right?
I'm ready.
And don't knock yourself out. We're just angst. But if you'd like to throw in a little jab at Tyreek Stevenson, go ahead. Okay, Nick, it's all yours.
You want to start there?
Oh,
Okay.
no.
We can start there.
I'm just both of you guys. And I'm not promoting that my team has DeAndre Hopkins who made Travis Kelce better and they're 7-0 and the offense all of a sudden has scored 26, 27, 28 over the last three games. We're defense first with that amazing goal line stand.
At least you didn't mention that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I guess to put it best, the ending was extremely fitting for how that game probably should have been resolved. The Bears had no business winning that football game. None. Okay, I want to throw something out to you guys that is actually
let it go,
very,
Nick.
very
let it off
impressive.
Your chest. Get rid of Poles. Get rid of Eberflus. Get rid of Shane, your hot
Shane
shot
Waldron
offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Okay. He's part of this first little element I'd like to discuss. You understand, Gary, in the game of modern football, how truly difficult it is to accomplish this feat of until 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter that your number one draft pick in the first round, the overall number one pick, and mind you, you've got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, a little banged up, came back in, Cole Kmet, Roma Dunze. Would you like to take a guess how many completions Caleb Williams had going into the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter.
Oh, I know. I watched the
Four.
game. Yeah,
Four.
He was
Four.
off the target. He looked like week number 1. Okay,
4.
Keep going.
How
This
many
is
yards?
good. You know,
36
you can't get it out until
yards of passing until the fourth quarter. 30 in 3 quarters of play. And this isn't they line up in the but they put Walter Payton and Matt Suhey in the backfield and they just run at teams. No, they don't do that either. They use DeAndre Swift when they want to.
Oh, they use an offensive lineman.
Yep. Okay, that's number
Sorry.
2. No, that's number 2.
Sorry.
And that offense, as anemic as it was, actually had a lead. The ending sucks. I'll get to Mr. Stevenson here in a moment as well. But at the end of the day, when you play that atrociously offensively, you don't deserve to win a football game. And so I hope they bask in that awfulness. Now, number 2, I thought you guys had Matt Nagy. I thought Matt Nagy was wearing red. Yeah,
but Matt Nagy that goes nowhere near the play calling in Kansas City.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Because that was a Matt Nagy special right there. The old, hey, let's run Santa's sleigh inside the 5-yard line where we could toss it to a lineman and then he'll throw it to the quarterback. It'll be really cool, even though we got guys that can just plow into the end zone. They'll never see it coming. Oh, it's fun. It's called Santa's sleigh. Why the hell would you give it to a freaking lineman who doesn't handle the football? What? I mean, why? Why do offensive coordinators think they are the smartest guy on the field, including the thousands of fans, when the reality is the thousands of fans, if they had that play call or had a chance, like, you get to call a series here. Not one of them has said, hey, let's line up our left guard.
People are asking on the stream, are we still talking about the Bears?
I know. Okay. I understand that can be confusing right there.
Drop that in there.
That just, I mean, right there is just so atrocious when you actually have a chance to win. But despite all that, they end up, avoiding that again, score, and they take the lead. Well, then we get to the final play of the game. I want to go back to, this would have been early third quarter. Tyreek Stevenson, who at his time in Chicago has always shown some questionable judgment. There is a play where Washington would have been faced with it would have been a third and long-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Tyreek Stevenson, right in front of an official, mind you, decides, you know what, this guy is jawing at my offensive lineman. My offensive lineman kind of shoves him back. I'm going to get in the mix right in front of the official, and I'm going to club him in the face mask. I'm going to push him in the face mask right in front of the official. That won't get called, right? Oh, it does. And then instead of a third and manageable for your defense,
we're still talking about
you've got
Bears,
a first
right?
down. Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So then that's the.
I don't know if Saturday in Columbus is starting to slip into the conversation.
And isn't it amazing? You got to watch that back-to-back days. And then all of a sudden, Tyreek Stevenson is, fast forward to the last play, and everybody's probably seen it by now, where he is on the other side of the goal line to where the play happened. As the ball is snapped, back turned to the play, he is taunting the Washington Commander fans. And then all of a sudden, retreats to the big spot where everything is going to happen. Now, here's the thing. He's the one who tips the ball.
Yeah, he got a taunter and a tipper.
Yes, he got taunting and tipping in a matter of seconds. Which way, by the way, the play took 17 seconds. Is that what it was? I think 17 seconds. And I will say Jacob Martin was held. They're not going to call that, though, on a
There have been a couple of holds in there.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking about Sunday in D.C.
Yeah, that's true, too. Again.
Was that the first time Jim Nantz has called a game from D.C.?
Probably.
Since like 1993.
Yeah, probably. It's probably been a very long time because why else the hell would they be there? Okay, I'll get to the broadcast in a moment. But so Tyreek Stevenson does.
That's good.
Tips the ball, but instead of knocking it forward, goes off of his hands behind him. This is what I want to know when Eberflus speaks, because this would sum up, and this would probably be the perfect thing. And Tyreek Stevenson, by the way, since has apologized to Bears fans, he shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. That's beyond apologetic. You're an idiot. That's what are you doing?
They have to suspend him.
Yes, they do. That is conduct detrimental to the team.
Trade him to the Raiders.
But I would love to find out that he was the one that his job was to be boxing out basically your back picker option.
Yeah.
Because as Eberflus said, they go over this. He's going to have to watch it, see who's boxing out, who was supposed to be on what assignment. It would make all the sense in the world that the entire Bears secondary that was back there all went for the ball when nobody decided, hey, we got to account for the people that in every basic Hail Mary, there's going to be someone, a trailer, who's waiting for the tip back. So it is your job, somebody's, I hope it's Tyreek Stevenson, because that just make it even better, that it was his job to have that responsibility. Probably was. And then quickly, let's just not forget, I know sometimes it's always the low-hanging fruit on the broadcast. Tony Romo did suggest before that play that Marcus Mariota should come in and throw the ball. Yeah, he did. And Jane Daniels was like, yeah, I'm good. It was amazing. How was your Sunday?
Good. My Sunday was
That's a really good defense.
My Sunday was good.
That goal line stand was nice.
Hey,
I wasn't
We're
surprised.
going to get Pacheco and Hollywood Brown back at the end of December. I got DeAndre Hopkins, who's going to help out Kelsey.
Yeah. Season's over. They're going to win the Super Bowl.
Playing defense. We played the Raiders, who are a mess.
Detroit's pretty good.
Feel bad for Brock Bowers. They need to find him a quarterback because he's going to be really good in this league. Oh, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, good.
I'm good. I just wanted to make sure that
Kelsey.
all of you were good. Now, I'm going to need some earmuffs from you over there. How awesome was this weekend that we got a walk-off grand slam in the World Series?
Wasn't that nice?
And we got a Hail Mary.
And the Hail Maryland?
That was awesome. What happened in D.C. yesterday? Not for your team, but that was awesome. Now, the Washington was asking to get beat, but that was
the most
awesome.
Anticlimactic Hail Mary, though, because all of a sudden it's like tip caught.
No.
Touchdown. It wasn't like Jocelyn Ford and stuff like that. It was just like tip catch.
No. To me, everything that was cool about the play happened before the ball was actually caught because of what Jaden Daniels did.
Yeah.
What the lack of pass rushers that Chicago had, that they had Edwards as a spy, which was kind of weird because they thought he'd get out of the pocket and run. What was he going to do? Run 60 yards down the field? But I always say rush 5. I tell my football coaches that, and they hang up on me. I say, hey, Hail Mary situation, you got to rush 5. And then you got to continue to rush. They stopped rushing on that play.
Yeah.
I think the most awesome thing about the Hail Mary
Jacob Martin
was before the ball was actually caught. Because of what Daniels did to scramble around and buy enough time for everybody to get in place. He sealed the Rookie of the Year. I just thought that was pretty awesome.
You know what
that
else?
play was so awesome because usually on Hail Marys, because we've all done this in our backyard when we're playing football,
we
we
play
design
500.
the Hail Mary, even when you're sitting in school and you're like, your attention drifts away from flashcards and you're thinking about, man, if I could draw up football plays, this is what the Hail Mary would look like.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the Hail Mary is supposed to look like.
Wow.
That's why
I
it was
drew
so.
up
That was why it
options.
was even more awesome. Is that's what's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all kind of seen them in person. Like if you saw the Westerkamp Hail Mary in 13, and then you just happened to be there for Mike Riley's first game in 15 against
Mangum.
BYU.
Yep.
I mean, seeing Hail Marys in person are pretty friggin' cool.
Um,
and I have to say, get earmuffs. That was kind of awesome.
Hey, as a sports fan, as long
Must
as
be
it
nice to
doesn't
have a good
involve your
coach.
team,
Daniels,
I get
Daniels had bad ribs and he threw the ball in the
He
air
did.
64 yards.
it. And I think that's why Tony Romo had mentioned maybe Marcus Mariota. Now, what was great about that mentioning of essentially Tony Romo's lack of faith that Jaden Daniels could get it that far. To your point about what he did before the ball was thrown, remember where the line of scrimmage was, where he was initially going to set up, where there was initial pressure. This is where I know I'm not trying to cry over the spilt milk, but Jacob Martin was held more than once.
Oh, there were a couple guys that were held.
But you're never going to call that. You're just not going to call it unless it's so egregious, unless he has a clear shot to the quarterback and all of a sudden he's yanked down and tackled. Then maybe you call that.
But maybe you got to sell it a little bit.
Yeah. And and Martin, I'll give him credit at the very end of the last
I would fall
one.
down on the ground and roll around like I'd been shot.
Well, he gives the big wing on the very last attempt. You could see him like, come on. But what Jaden Daniels did, the initial setup would have been 50 yards, give or take, 55 yards, give or take. As he is buying himself time, he's losing ground. So he's adding more yards to that throw. By the time he launches it, it was probably a good 15 yards from where the original line of scrimmage was. So not only I'm with you. It was very impressive that he's going from this side to this side, but he's losing ground, adding more distance to the throw. But when he uncorks it, you're like, that's got no problem getting there.
He threw it to the exact spot that he needed to throw it to.
Yeah, I mean there was zero problem at getting there.
That's also like part of the Hail Mary. You can't like scramble around and throw it to the right corner of the end zone when it's supposed to go to the left side.
Okay.
The whole play, that's why the whole play was awesome.
It was. And I want to bring this up because Drunk Monk in the stream also, this was one of my frustrations on the play before. When Romo says it's not Hail Mary time yet, you still got 3 seconds to get a quick out so you can obviously lessen the distance for the Hail Mary throw. Yeah, I think that obviously made sense. Someone needed to tell Chicago that. They were already they had nobody at the second level. I mean, essentially, the defense you saw at the very end of the prevent and the Hail Mary defense, they had that on the second to last play as well. Yeah. That's also bad. Like, Chicago did so many bad things in 2 defensive plays right there that were just, for a guy who is a defensive-minded head coach that at times in his time with Chicago has looked like the moment is too big or he just doesn't know what he's doing. Boom, right there.
Yeah, I think, it's your team, but from my observation is your GM made a bad decision before the year even began. If you're going to draft Caleb Williams, who, I don't know, I think he's going to be okay.
I do too. I'll say this about Caleb.
But most of his best plays are off improvising, which I don't know that you want that to be your. But you got a bad offensive line. You got a great defense. Mm-hmm. You got a defense that is good enough. Because they've held opponents to 21 or less in 13 straight games.
Yep.
That doesn't happen in the NFL.
No, and they're young too.
But your GM made a colossal mistake, in my opinion. If you're going to draft a guy like Caleb Williams, and you already had a hesitation about your head coach, why would you bring back your head coach to pair him with Caleb Williams in his rookie year?
Yeah, in the most key developmental year.
Why would you just not move on so you don't have to deal with an OC who I have no idea what he's doing in terms of play calling? I think your GM made a major mistake bringing Eberflus back to pair with Caleb Williams. I think that's where it started. And now, it's going to be the inevitable at the end of the year because they're a good team. I think that defense is good enough to get you into the playoffs, but you can't just have colossal mistakes like that because the Hail Mary does not take away from some of the other issues that you have. And a lot of it goes right back to the head coach who had just a rough game. And almost got saved at the end because Washington was just asking to get beat all day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were messing around the entire way, settling for field goals. Everything that was happening with this Washington team, they'd move the ball. The Chicago defensively, what they are known to do, and they're kind of a bend don't break, but they can get after you. And as I mentioned, they're getting younger. Their pass rush is getting a lot better too. How they defended Jaden Daniels in that offense, regardless of his overall health status, was better than I could have imagined. But it's kind of when we talk about the team in Lincoln as well. You can only get so much from your defense. At some point, your offense has to do something. And unfortunately, it seems like in games like that, the defense will be the one that's going to be on the hook here because of what happened in those last 2 series. Yet, if you watch the totality of that game, you're thinking, where's the offensive flow? And this is the thing that I still have a tough time with this team is I see Caleb Williams getting better. I see Caleb Williams getting more confident with how the speed of the game at the NFL level is being played. I think I'm with you as far as I think he's going to be okay. What I liked what Ryan Poles did with him in his developmental year is you got a guy like DeAndre Swift. You got DJ Moore. You signed him. You've got Keenan Allen. He's experienced. He's also going to be a guy that's going to be a good mouthpiece and a playmaker there too. Roma Dunze was a great pickup in the first round as well. But lack of building that offensive line, even with it being healthy, is a major detriment to that development. That's on the GM. That's also on the head coach as far as what types of decisions they're making. Okay, you need to get a new OC. Tell me why Shane Waldron was the guy that you wanted to go with.
I don't know why your head coach is the guy to go with Caleb Williams. That's what I'm asking.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, that's
because he's not going to be here next year.
He put you behind the 8 ball to begin with.
Yeah,
and you're a playoff caliber team on one side of the ball.
They win that game. They are a 5-2 team with a mid to below average offense.
And in the toughest division in football, that next week will have
that you just can't
Green
lose
Bay for bragging rights.
And you can't lose games like that because you have to stay afloat in that division as well. You have a game that is right there where the percentage is less than 2%.
Said that about Mike Riley after the BYU game. You cannot lose your first game at Nebraska in that manner. All right. Welcome in, everybody. Off and rolling. Jimmy, the Cowboys are the Cowboys. Boy, they showed Jerry Jones.
Today's Monday.
Jerry Jones looked awful. I know that he had a couple of family members that were involved in a car accident going to the game. Boy,
the team is a car accident.
He looked bad. I mean, he looked a little haggard. And it wasn't just because the Cowboys,
and not
because he's realizing, man, I'm paying Dak a lot of money to only be good in garbage time. And I did not build my roster where your only option to throw the ball to is CeeDee Lamb.
Which I'm happy about because I have him on fantasy.
I mean, he's your only option, and there's 4 guys on him. It's a poor franchise. It's poorly constructed, and you know what? It's all about money and not about the dubs. That's okay. But man, Jerry didn't look good last night. They didn't show him as much on the Sunday night broadcast, but when they would, he looked a little haggard, looked a little old.
How much can the guy take? I mean, a lot of this is his own doing. I'm not trying to be like, poor guy, but
don't give him an out.
This
is all on Jerry
exactly.
Jones.
The stuff that he brings upon himself that doesn't work, and given his age and the amount of which I will always say about Jerry Jones, whether you like the guy or not, this is his vanity. This is his baby. The Dallas Cowboys are his thing. And when he thinks he knows more than everybody else, makes moves and they don't work out, he's finally wearing it.
Now in 2018, you were 3-4, and he made a big move that helped. But last night they were playing a team that was their 3rd game in 12 days and has battled a bunch of injuries. And Dallas was coming off a bye week.
Yeah, I'm surprised it was that close.
I know that Dallas used to be America's team. I think it would be tough to be a Dallas fan. I mean, you guys are so passionate about your team, but the discourse about the Cowboys is just out of this world. And I would either like, maybe sell myself to another team. It'd be tough. It's tough being a Cowboy fan. I feel for you, Jimmy.
You get to a certain age, it's tough to do that, though.
Hey, I got 7 hours of wonderful sleep.
There are so many front runners out there.
Didn't faze me.
All right.
Football was mean to me this weekend. My F-bombs came the night before. I told my dad, why didn't you ever get me into the theater instead of sports? Because nobody loses sleep over a play. Nobody stays up Saturday night replaying how you don't run the damn ball.
But you know what? That is what is so great about sports. Like, I don't know, we'll get into this. Like doing Big Red Overreaction on Saturday like Nick and I did. Like the vibe is really different. And I don't know if it's because people that were on before rules spoke were ready to go with the pitchforks, or they're like, it's Ohio State. I mean, it's just the part of being a sports fan. And especially around here where you're looking at Nebraska football going into the month of November, where they have 4 games that are all winnable. I think we could all say they're all losable.
Yeah,
that's
where we are.
You could be 500 and you go, man, I would take that. Sharp was right. They were 7-5. Again, I take no glee in the fact that I might be, for one of the rare times, right on my season prediction.
I think that's exactly where we're headed, though.
But everything like in sports right now is a balance of staying in the present, looking to the future, and trying to remember that a lot of people have got the past all over them. That's kind of like rules balance. I said on Big Red Overreaction, I didn't like what he did after the game. That's a good, to sermonize, that's a good day thing.
Yeah.
I want to know the whys.
Yeah.
I want to know some of the whys after the game. But as I kind of thought, I don't know that I'm right, and I might not be. I was just speculating. You are disappointed, frustrated in things that happen, and you know your limitations, that you're not going to dwell on those. You're going to talk big picture after a game like that to steer the conversation away. Might be a different conversation today, but but you know what? This is the great thing about being a sports fan. We have the ups and the downs. We balance what we used to have, what we currently have, and what we want in the future. That essentially is Nebraska football, right?
Yeah. You ride the roller coaster every Saturday that they take the field. And that's the emotions. That's the game of it. Everything about this season is
opening my third eye.
It's the essence of Nebraska football right now. Oh. And we saw something that I don't think any of us in this room anticipated, that Nebraska would have a chance to win the football game late in the fourth quarter. At the end of the game, would have a chance to win a game against Ohio State in the horseshoe based on what happened a week ago. That would be the case. We would have said on Friday, if that's the case, Husker fan, would you take it? 100% of you would have said, yeah, I would. But yet there are still moments of that where you're thinking, if that's the case, don't give me a score. Just tell me that they have a chance to win the game. If that's the case, I'm assuming Nebraska, both defensively, special teams, and offensively, played one of their best games ever. That's not the case. And yet they still had a chance to do that.
How about pretty wild? Nebraska under Rule probably went from having their worst game to their best game. I mean, that's not easy to do. But I am pretty consistent on this. What happened on Saturday in Columbus did not change my opinion about this football team. I think the team that played on Saturday in Columbus played against an offense that is not as good as Indiana's. You get Ohio State. You got to worry. You got to worry about yourself.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's got some stuff.
I'm not here to worry about Ohio State. Yeah. Okay, you got issues, and man, I feel for you. Ryan Day is not your head coach. Okay, Ryan Day is not the guy to lead Ohio State, but that's your problem. We're focusing on Nebraska. The team that played in Columbus is the team that I think Nebraska is. They are solid, not great. They need to have some breaks go their way. They need to create breaks. But if they play hard, they play smart, they can stay in football games, but they have a ceiling on in terms of talent and execution that when it comes to beating a five-star factory, they're just not there yet.
Yep.
So what happened on Saturday, to me, I don't want to speak for you guys or anybody else, it did not change my opinion of who the Nebraska football team is. In 2024, they're solid, not great. When they do their job and they play free and easy, they can hang in games and compete with teams that are even or above them. When they don't, they get exposed and they get their butt kicked.
Yeah.
And that's what happened on Saturday. So that just leads into the question of, okay, so smart guy on the radio named Gary Sharp, what does November look like? Well, what if I told you that the same team played on Saturday in Columbus would be the same team, fingers crossed, because you need consistency, because that's going to be a big thing in November to give you a bump for your bowl game in December, because go ahead and start perusing the bowl pairings. Nebraska's going to a bowl game. There you go. Breaking news. Ding, 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 ding. If you just want consistency, okay? I don't know how much progress is going to come. I think this is the same team that has been from day one, but you just want consistency. But if that team that played on Saturday in Columbus plays the same exact way with the flaws and the positives, what does the record look like at the end of November? Factoring in UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Iowa, where they currently are in a week-to-week sport.
And I think it's easy for me to get right to your original prediction of 7 wins then.
7-5 pinstripe.
Because the matchups matter in this case. Nebraska from an explosive opponent as far as what they do offensively that could test Nebraska's defense to the point that we saw against Indiana. There's not another offense on this schedule that, in my opinion, can do what they can. Now, there's the obvious. Look, Iowa's got this way of pulling away from teams now here in the second half of certain games.
Don't go down that road. I'm going to help you not to go down that road about Iowa, because there is a narrative that they have debunked. Iowa scored 40 or more three times.
Three times, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But as far as
Iowa's offense is what, averaging 26 a game?
Yeah.
Okay.
But to say like that's
wait a minute. I think they're more. I think they're almost
it'd
30
be close
a
to
game.
30. Yeah,
They're tied for 56th in the country in scoring offense.
And talk about a massive improvement there. But from an explosiveness standpoint, it's not the same type of an offense that you see from Indiana. Same thing with UCLA. Same thing even with USC. You've got playmakers all over the place, but it's wildly inconsistent there. And then Wisconsin, their formula, which they've found and has been good to them, against Penn State, not so much, but running the ball, being physical, kind of old Wisconsin.
Nebraska will crush that offensive line of Wisconsin. Wisconsin offensive line isn't very good.
No, and that's the thing. So with the identity you're playing with your defense, if you have the same type of what you saw against Ohio State and have tried to make that Indiana game the anomaly, I feel very confident that this can be a 7-win team. Now, can they go above and beyond that? I'm definitely not ready to do that. But from what they have remaining on their schedule, given the opponents, if you get what you got on Saturday, you got 2 more wins coming.
That's the question, among others, that we will talk about when we come back. I know people have rewatched. They've shared screen grabs, breakdowns, video. Has your opinion on a rewatch changed on Nebraska's offensive plan and execution on Saturday? All right, coming up on the show, Ben Oddie will join us at 8 from the BA Coaches Show. Evan Bland, Jacob Bigalow. We had basketball over the weekend. Creighton, Purdue. Man, wish we could do that more often. That was kind of fun. Number 15 in the country versus number 14 in the country. down at the Chai on Saturday night, and then Nebraska yesterday. Played an exhibition game. So Jacob will be in with some hoop thoughts coming up at 9. Lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. We're back. We're off. We're running on a Monday as we will go into the month of November before it's all said and done. How about that? Hello, darkness.
84 on Wednesday.
Oh, I know. Hey.
In Omaha, Nebraska.
Yes. It's going to be beautiful today.
Let's not bury today.
Go away.
On a Monday, 70?
Yes, summer is still here.
Fill up your cars every day.
I turned my
air
sprinklers
spray.
off way too early. Yeah. My lawn's going to take a beating now.
You guys should have heard the white Al Roker over here. It's mornings with Sharp and Handley. 1620 The Zone. All right, we do have Game 3 of the World Series tonight. It's kind of odd not to have baseball yesterday.
We were sad.
Yeah.
Rather watch that than the excrement on NBC.
I wonder it's going head-to-head with Monday Night Football, but the Monday Night Football game is the Giants and the Steelers.
I'd rather watch a blank screen.
Daniel Jones against Russell Wilson. People forget Daniel Jones has gone on the road and won at Cleveland and at Seattle. He will be, I think the line's 6.5-point underdog tonight.
And who took down the mighty Baltimore Ravens yesterday? That Cleveland Brown team, too, led by one Jameis Winston.
Hey, I hope people realize that in the past decade, are we still in the decade? Yeah, I would say in the last decade plus, there is Jameis Winston is a top 5 raw talent. Jameis Winston.
Oh, raw talent? Sure.
Jameis Winston had one of the best single season years in the history of college football, the year that they won the national championship. But in terms of raw talent, he is in the top 5 of football players in the last decade, in my opinion.
Yeah, big dude, still elusive with a freaking cannon. And he showed it yesterday. And a ball that should have been picked the previous play uncorks a dime. He just uncorked one.
I love the experience. I mean, he's got a great personality. He's a funny guy, loves playing the game.
He is funny.
He, before the game, had a rehearsed what he was going to say to the interviewer. Yeah. And then after the game, he quoted the white rapper from Detroit. But he also will be a hero forever in Cleveland because now they got 10 games to go with the Browns. They can play with house money, and he's going to be their quarterback.
Yep.
And you could say goodbye to Deshaun Watson and welcome in Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders as your next quarterback. So he has done that because now the days of Deshaun Watson are over.
I think Shadur in Cleveland would be magical.
Yeah. Let's manifest
I don't think Dad would allow that to happen.
No, I don't either. That's why I think it'd
or
be
the
magical.
league.
We just need some.
He'll end up in Dallas.
We need some pre-draft Sanders family drama, and I think that would be part of it right there.
Quick question here that was asked of me to ask you. I'm not sure why they didn't go straight to you. Worst loss, yesterday or the double doink?
The double doink is playoffs.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll say why.
Okay.
This is why I think so. Because if people remember the path that Chicago had, you know who they were going to play had they won that game. And very similar to yesterday, too, where their offense did not play very well. Their defense kept them in it, gave them a chance to win that game at the end. And I don't care if it doinks once or twice, or if he would have just missed it wide left or wide right without any type of contact to the upright whatsoever. Losing that game, remember, they were supposed to play the Rams in L.A., which I'm sure there would have been thousands of Rams fans that would have made that an intimidating home environment. But remember the way that Chicago just swallowed up Jared Goff and that Rams defense, or Rams offense, I think it was 3 weeks prior to the playoffs.
I don't remember
just
last week.
Dominated. Vic Fangio, I think Jared Goff still has nightmares of the way Vic Fangio schemed in that game. That was a very favorable matchup. All of a sudden, you win that game, you beat the Rams for a second time. I don't care that that game was going to be in L.A. All of a sudden, you're in the NFC Championship game with a defense that was as good as there was in the league that year. There was an outside shot that they could have essentially scooted their way into the Super Bowl that year. I really felt that's how good their defense was in 2018. And so them losing that game
People forget Trent
was
Dilfer
heartbreaking.
won a Super Bowl as a quarterback.
Yes, he did. And even a worse quarterback than Mitchell Trubisky, Rex Grossman, was in a Super Bowl. So that one hurts really bad. Yesterday, it came down to, now this is a big deal because we were just talking about the division and everything. You have to continue to gain ground. You can't lose ground because teams just aren't losing in that division. But there is a big difference of waking up this morning of saying, damn, the Bears are 5-2 as opposed to, they're 4-3, one game above 500. And they only have a limited amount of games on their schedule before it gets real. And yesterday, despite how good Jaden Daniels was playing, you have a chance to win that game, take advantage of that. That's big. But if you're giving me the difference between a regular season game still early in the year as opposed to a playoff game, I'm going to take that playoff game.
So I would put yesterday right behind the double doink?
Yeah.
Because you have a good team. You have a quarterback you can grow with. So I would think that would be.
Yeah.
Man. You thought they should win get to the Super Bowl in
I thought
18?
they can get the Super Bowl, yeah.
Wow.
I thought they had a path.
I thought I was going to play in the NBA when I was a kid.
100%. I think they had the path.
They did have that defense. That was a filthy defense.
People forget about that. That was the thing. Yeah, it's a double doink, but they had LA in the divisional round, and I'm telling you, that was a team that they matched up so good against, especially Fangio versus McVay.
All right, let's start the morning on the 42 Degree, the Source Hotline with Andrew. Hello, Andrew.
Yay!
Whoa.
Hey, Andrew.
What are we so excited
Andrew
about?
must be a Washington fan.
He just won money.
No, you know what fan I am.
I know, but we're not talking about exhibition basketball yet.
Why not?
Because
you are giddy, Andrew.
It's called exhibition basketball for a reason.
I know, Gary. I know. Let's not go all crazy.
Gives you a glimpse into the future, though, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
They looked pretty darn good, I must say.
Yes, they did.
I know they're not playing
Offensively, they did look good.
top defense or top offense. But, no, I thought they looked pretty good, and the newcomers looked all right. I mean, they're freshmen, but what did you take away from it? This is the great thing about being Jasker. You have a tough loss in football, and then you just rally around the Creighton basketball team, and
this call is not going
it's like,
well.
I get it now.
It's like a dip of chocolate. I mean, it's just.
So Andrew's saying for all Nebraska fans that were feeling the sting of that loss, just unite behind Creighton basketball that night.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a popular take today.
Yeah. I think I better look behind my back.
Yeah, you should. Andrew, thanks for the phone call. So
Pop Isaacs, though.
Jackson McAndrews is the real deal. I mean, he was highly recruited for a reason and highly thought of. His shooting release, man, that is quick. Their offense, if Ashworth is the second option in scoring, I know Pop Isaacs had 24 and he was as advertised, but they drive and kick and they got shooters. Offensively, they've also got scores. They got guys that can put up points. I mean, it was impressive for an exhibition game. The defense will come along. They're a top 15 team for a reason. Now, Purdue, I think, has got some. I don't know what Purdue was doing, trying to figure out rotations and everything like that. And that's why I think you do have, compared to Nebraska yesterday, if you want to get into exhibition overreaction, you can judge yourself a little bit better when you're playing Purdue compared to Grand Valley State.
Yeah.
But both Nebraska and Creighton have to work on their rotations, but they do have a logjam of wings. That's a huge thing for Mac. And Kalkbrenner's going to control the paint against any team that does not have somebody that looks like Kalkbrenner or has a couple of different options to go against him. I mean, he's just going to dominate, and he'll control the paint. But Ashworth's an interesting one to me, because is he now going to move into a scoring option?
Yeah.
And if that is the case, then what does their offense look like to take the next jump with the pieces that they have?
Yeah, and
that was impressive.
I think one of the things I was curious about going into the offseason was what would the offseason development look like with Isaac Trout? What was his role look like? And you brought up Jackson McAndrew, which I would think, based on what we saw and how he was used to, Isaac Trout. And again, I'm not going to dwell on minutes in an exhibition game, but McAndrew looks like a legitimate scoring threat. Where Isaac Trout, we saw have some games where in the corner he was successful, but as far as what he can bring offensively, I wonder if that you almost have a role between those three, between Trout, between Miller and Jackson McAndrew, where if Jackson McAndrew's getting the ball in more times than often, does he kind of take over that role that Trout had last year?
Trout looked more confident on Saturday night. I don't know. I'm not ready to go there.
Yeah, I'm just curious on how they're going to rotate that area, especially you want to give McAndrew some minutes, so that'll be interesting.
All right, we've got an update with Jimmy coming up next, and then we'll get into, after a rewatch, did your opinion change at all on Nebraska's offensive game plan, execution, and your thoughts on the OC after Saturday? Because people have thoughts. Are there solutions? At least in 2024. We'll get into all that as we are live until 10. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
One of these days, I'm going to take Nick up on his offer and email him my thoughts on life, especially about 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday. See how that goes. Nebraska ball beats the Lakers of Grand Valley State. The Huskers settled down in the second half, breaking the ice on the Lakers' pressure, maintaining their defensive intensity and pulling away for a 73-53 win 1 week before its season opener. It was an exhibition. So was Drago and Apollo Creed. Alexis Markowski scored 16 points, and Brett Prince had 12 to lead the Nebraska ball women to an 89-52 exhibition game win over Doane yesterday evening. You betcha it was Nebraska's only open to the public preseason game. They play their first game next Monday against Omaha. The Mavericks, not the whole city, they would be outnumbered. The Huskers will start the season ranked number 23 in the country. Nebraska volleyball beats Michigan 3-1 Saturday night at Devaney. They won the night before. They're 20-1. They're 10-0 in the Big Ten. They won their 17th match in a row, 38th straight home match. Ties its longest home win streak since the 88 in a row from 2004 to 2009. The Wolverines fell to 16-5 overall, 6-4 in the Big Ten. The Huskers play their next 4 matches on the road, beginning at number 8 Wisconsin Friday night at 8. Omaha hockey dropped its second straight game to number 18 Minnesota State 1-0. The game saw 4 power plays for Omaha, but it couldn't get one back into the back of the net. They had 17 shots on goal in the second period, despite several chances, leading Minnesota State 27-16 in shots on goal. The Mavs couldn't get one through. My beloved hockey Mavs struggling. They'll get it back together. They'll head into the bye week next weekend, then they'll resume play Friday, November 8th, when they host Western Michigan in the NCHC opening series at Baxter Arena. I think they'll be all right. When the season started, the Dallas Cowboys never believed they would be in such a predicament after 7 games. Really? I could have been in a coma and told everyone that crap was going to happen. And in many ways, the Cowboys have been in a coma. With Sunday's 30-24 loss to the 49ers, the Cowboys are 3-4. I'm surprised they won 3. And closer to the bottom of the NFC than a Super Bowl contender. They haven't been a Super Bowl contender since, well, before I had hair on my chest. Anyway, Mike McCarthy said, "We're disappointed. Our men really had a good week of preparation." I'm sure they did. "I thought they were areas of improvement, but still we have a ton to work on." I give up. The last time they were 3-4 with a healthy Dak Prescott at quarterback was 2018. In 2020, they were 2-5 on their way to 2-7. And then Dak Prescott suffered a compound fracture, a dislocation of his right ankle in the 5th game of the season. I don't know why that was included. Either way, the whole team is a compound fracture in their right ankle. Shohei Otani, dealing with a partial dislocation of his left shoulder, is expected to be in the lineup for tonight's Game 3 of the World Series in the Boogie Down Bronx. Dave Roberts practically declared it earlier, texting Carl Ravitch, saying he's playing tomorrow. Later, before a workout from Yankee Stadium, Roberts did caution that Otani still had to go through a workout, but it's nonetheless trending in that direction. It's going to be a pain tolerance deal. He suffered what was described as a subluxation while sliding into second base to end the 7th inning in Saturday's 4-2 win over the New York Yankees in Game 2. Otani was slow to get up. All of Southern California fell silent. He was rolling on the ground, grabbing his left arm. When he was finally helped to his feet, Dodgers' assistant athletic trainer held the superstar's left arm as the two disappeared into the clubhouse. Finally, the World Series is averaging 14.5 million viewers for the first 2 games. I know that's a shock. The best start for the Fall Classic since 2017, which was won by your Houston Astros in 7 games against the Dodgers. Saturday's victory by the Dodgers over the Yankees averaged just over 13 million on Fox and all the other crap that they have, streaming channels, whatever. That is a 65% increase over last year's Game 2, which is shocking. I thought it'd be about a 465% increase. 8 million actually watched that last year. It was the second least viewed World Series game on record. But I watched it because it's baseball and it's almost over. So hopefully we have 5 more games of baseball left before the long winter begins.
So does Fox. Fox wants this series to go as long as possible. They don't want to look at the Dodgers are minus 450 as a favorite tonight.
Yep.
Will Game 3 between the Dodgers and the Yankees, will it outrate the Steelers and the Giants on ESPN? So
we have the Mannings tonight?
Fox compared to ESPN? I don't
so.
know. There is a.
Oh, yes, we do.
Is there ABC tonight too?
Yeah, I mean it's the same broadcast.
I mean it's two Steelers and the Giants are two big brands against two big brands in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, baseball.
I think it could. I really do, especially with the desperation that the Yankee fans are in right now.
Well, whatever it is,
I think the Yankees win tonight.
It's a sports equinox today. Pro football, baseball, basketball, hockey, all going on today.
All the balls.
Game 3 of the World Series, Monday Night Football, NBA, NHL. If you're a sports fan, today is for you.
Yeah, you sit back, you just turn on TV, maybe 3 screen it, maybe 4 screen it.
If you are a fan of Nebraska's offensive coordinators over the past couple of decades.
Nice.
Saturday was a day for you. I asked this because I might be in the category of a couple of things changed for me. You know, when we do Big Red Overreaction, it's right after the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the moment. You know, you got to think on your feet.
Yep.
You know, you don't have a chance to go back and rewatch. And I'm not good enough to stop games in the middle and go back and then break it down and then move ahead because I like to stay in the moment.
Still be on time.
Did anybody's opinion change even for the little bit? I'm not saying, oh my God, you're right. Satterfield, I think he should have called more screenplays after rewatching it because I saw what was there. Did anybody's opinion of Nebraska's offense, for the good or the bad, change if you rewatch the game from Saturday?
Okay, we sort of talked about this on Saturday, and so I did want to go back and look at one area that I was curious of, just throwing everything at Marcus Satterfield, especially on the perimeter screen game. We had mentioned, and I believe a caller had brought it up, I knew of one in particular where Dylan had checked down into, had actually checked at the line of scrimmage into a tunnel screen. There was, from what I could tell, as far as the communication at the line of scrimmage, I think there were actually 4 occasions of that where Dylan did check into that. So it does lead me to the question of, first and foremost, maybe not completely fair to put all of that on Marcus Satterfield right then and there. As far as why do we keep going to this? Why do we keep going to, you brought this up with the math of the play. I also brought up the fact that the inability of certain guys to be able to make those blocks, like, sorry, Jamal Banks, but you were part of that. That there was actually moments of the play being called and the question of, okay, then what was because I think you asked the question on Saturday, then what was some of the original plays that were being called? So I wanted to see how many times that was actually being called at the line of scrimmage as opposed to the play that was coming in. And there were more than what I originally thought. And that was one, I thought maybe, I knew of one in particular. I thought there might've been 2. There was actually 4 that I could count. So that part of it a little bit changes as far as where am I, if we're doing the blame game here.
No, this isn't the Aaron Rodgers wheel of blame.
Yeah, but yeah, where am I putting some of that blame on the play calling that had everybody up in arms on Saturday? The other part about this is, and this was another area that I wanted to go back and just watch it play for play, and that was, you asked the question Saturday, do you think the first drive of the second half was scripted? And I still don't know if I think it was scripted, but what they did right there is, I think, it's one of what this offense aspires to be.
Nebraska's first, so for people that did not listen to Big Red Overreaction, I don't know what you were doing.
Right?
Nebraska's first drive of the second half, the first time they had the football, I think is one of Nebraska's best drives.
Agreed.
Of the year. Now, it only ended up in a field goal. I mean, 3 for the hole is better than nobody for the whole soul.
Well, how did it end on a third down on a penalty too?
Yeah. So, but in terms of rhythm and how it's supposed to look with the pieces that are in place, I thought that was the way to go. So I'm with you on, I think there were some checks into screens or whatever they wanted to run in the perimeter. But I will, before I would ask a screen game, and I hope this comes up today, is what did Nebraska in their preparation see that they went with a lot of bunch sets that really they were nothing. Mm-hmm. They couldn't do anything out of bunch sets. But when they went 3 wide and they spread the field, Nebraska had some really good success throwing and running the football.
Especially,
but I want to know, what did they see in their prep that led them to think that they had an advantage on the perimeter against Ohio State? Because I didn't see it. And I hate the numbers game. And I also hate the screen game because Nebraska is not built to run the screen game. They just don't have enough consistency where all 11 guys are going to be on the same page. When they do, Nebraska got some explosive plays.
Yep.
They actually had some really good play designs from Saturday that needed execution. And when they got them, they matched up. But there were a lot of times where I thought questionable play calling, and then the execution wasn't very good. And not everybody was on the same page. I mean, there's one running play, is this in the red zone or just outside of the red zone, where everybody blocks left, and Dylan and Dowdell go right in a handoff, and it ends up for a tackle for loss. And I'm like, okay, how did 9 guys hear one thing and 2 guys heard something else, because there's no way you went with deception, because Ohio State had 3 unblocked guys on that side that had a direct path to Dowdell. Now, the screen game, again, I want to know what they saw that they thought they could have a perimeter, they could have advantage on the perimeter. Nebraska has become so predictable with their offense and their routes that they're running and people that are on the field and personnel on exactly what they're going to do. And then you pair that with, I thought the offensive line was okay. Offensive line is really good pass blocking. They just not consistent enough to be road graders. But pass blocking, they gave Dillon adequate time when Nebraska wanted to throw the football.
Yeah, they did.
But the other part of the screen game that Nebraska, you got to put players in position. You at least got to try it. But when you know that because 4 things really have to go right in the screen game. And Nebraska is not consistent enough to have those 4 things go right all the time to run the screens or be good enough when you play a numbers game and you have 3-on-6 that you have wide receivers that have enough pride in their craft that consistently they're going to go out there and they're going to get in the right spot to block somebody, which they usually don't. You can talk about having pride and not blocking someone, but when you block somebody, you got to block them the right way. Your head's got to be on the right side of the defender. And then you got to have the running back or the wide receiver be able to see where to go. The other thing about the screen game that really, I have questions and I want these answered today or tomorrow. Ramir Johnson would have made a difference. Okay, Ramir was not there.
Yeah.
Ramir would have been better in the screen game. So we take out Ramir and we insert guys that's not their forte. And then why, if you're going to run it, why are we asking Barney to block? Jesus.
Yeah.
He's half of me. He can't block.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it just it was a culmination of a typical day at the ballpark for Nebraska on offense, where they might have a great play call, a great play choice, and the execution is not there. Or the execution is there and it clouds over a poor choice of plays. I mean, we're in hell, gentlemen and ladies, about Nebraska offensively, because they don't have enough playmaking talent that can overcome some stuff where you go, we're really running that play, coach.
Yeah. Okay. The part about what they were maybe seeing and why you saw so much of the perimeter game too. Okay, and this goes back to the drive in the first drive of the second half. Igbenos on the corner for Ohio State. You could tell they were making a concerted effort to not only attack him in the passing game, but to run his way and try to be able to get him to make a play in space. Because he had the 2, I think one might have been a defensive holding, but he had the 2 penalties. And then he had one completion that was, I think it was Jamal Banks that made the catch. And so that's who he was matched up with for a good part of the game. So you're asking me maybe certain things that I changed my mind on. I'm not saying the execution was bad, but in the thinking, I do wonder if they saw something with Davison Igbenos that they wanted to be able to exploit there, both on the perimeter and going at him in the passing game, because he was a few times when he got in one-on-one positions, he was getting beat. And then when he was trying to recover, he was just holding the receiver. So I know that's one player, but if you're trying to expose that area of the field, you feel your guy can win that one-on-one block. And then maybe you're putting him in a position where he has to make a play in space. I do wonder if that had something to do with it, because it seemed like anytime there were big plays on the perimeter in the passing game, whether it was via penalty or actually getting a reception, Igbenos was involved in this for Ohio State. The other part, and I'm going to give you credit on this because you brought this up, I want to say it was actually before the Indiana game. We asked the question, what does this offense do well? And we talked about tempo, and I totally agreed with you. You brought up something, if you go to 2 of their more explosive runs, minus the 14-yard run for Dante Dowdell in that series where that was out of the shotgun, 2 of 5 and I believe 8 yards, 5 8-yard gains running the football. Where was Dillon? Under center. So that's part of it as well, where I think watch the offensive line in that moment compared to when they're in the shotgun and trying to run the football 2 times. And that was one of the things where I went back on, because I wanted to really get into that drive, because I do feel that is what Nebraska aspires to be offensively. Watch the type of push, especially on the left side, that they get when he's under center compared to when they go that way in shotgun. It's significantly different.
They are so boomer bust on offense. I mean, they need everything to go right to have an explosive play.
And all 11, you're right, all 11.
Yeah, they just don't have somebody that is a playmaker that just on their own can go and make plays. The other thing that now I'm going to really, really watch closer is I went back and watched certain scenarios from Saturday. God bless them, and they followed through on this, that they were going to fix the turnover issue. They have done that. But there are times I think that they call plays to avoid the turnover. Defensive line played free and easy on Saturday, and look at the difference they made.
Yep.
They really haven't let Dylan, who I don't think progressed in the month of October. I don't think he regressed, but I don't think he progressed. I don't think he had progress. It's almost like Satterfield calls plays because he's so afraid of the turnover. And then, a misread by a quarterback leads to the game-ending interception.
Yeah, that's interesting, because what has been the focal point of this team going all the way back to the end of last season, and the conversation that's continued to be brought up about this team and the whole chasing 3 element, the fact that you go 0 in November, and what could have been if that turnover margin is better, and not even dramatically better, just a little bit better, that you might be onto something there. Because as you just said that, I'm thinking of the plays that for an offense that's a grab bag offense that is just searching for things, the plays that you see consistently attempted are ones that I would consider, I think you would probably too, if I'm understanding you correctly, are conservative, are probably minimal reward, but mostly lower risk. And one of the things that I really liked about Dylan going into the season when it came to the perimeter game and the screen game is he was a guy that if you could find a quarterback that could get the ball on time, everything is lining up to where blocking is timed to where it should be. Receivers getting the ball, or running back, whoever's getting it, is getting the ball in stride. There's no hesitation. You don't have to go low for the throw, back for the throw. Everything is timing-wise good. Then that could be a weapon.
But everything has to be. There are
you're
4
right.
things that have to go right for a screen to be executed well.
But what I failed to maybe consider during that thought is, well, if you have a quarterback that gets it there too, it's a pretty safe play.
Yep.
And so I think that's an interesting thought you have there, because is this offense, if it's not necessarily these are awful calls, but these are almost too safe? Because you also bring up something that I think is a big issue with Dylan going into November. My plan, because they should be going off of my plan of Dylan, my plan would be Dylan would have some initial success right out of the gate because of who they're playing. Still thought that Colorado game was a huge gift for him to be able to experience that at home. Then you'd get into, the Rutgers of the world, even the Illinois teams defensively that might challenge you just based on their coach's reputation. And so there'd be some lumps along the way. You'd probably fight it a little bit against Ohio State, but you would still see that progress. I agree with you that you haven't seen any type of significant step forward other than the amount of adversity that Dylan has now been thrown with. The one area of Saturday that I think, whether that's on him or this was just coaching period, is he did finally use his legs, and just that threat where they had to play him just a little bit more honest, that offense just a little bit more honest because Dylan was actually willing to take off, I think was something. But overall, did he take the type of step forward to where, then going back to what I was hoping, is you get out of that second bye week, going to those last 3 games, that Dylan would be feeling as confident and be playing as good a football as he could be expected to in his true freshman year. I don't know if I'm ready to say that is still on track because of what I think was just really kind of a stuck in the mud type of October.
Did not throw a touchdown pass in the month of October. Yeah. Mobile quarterback. Kevin would like to talk about that. Good morning, Kevin. Welcome to Mornings with Sharp and Handley on the Zone.
Hey, fellas. Once again, you guys are always great. But that's really what I was thinking at this elite level. You guys see all the Ohio State quarterbacks. You see them in the SEC that can really make that move. We saw with Dylan Raiola, he didn't exceed in making a touchdown that he could have had. You see him with the Miami quarterbacks and stuff like that. Do you think it's really a practical thing having an elite quarterback in Dylan Raiola but still not being able to have that mobility. Do you think that's practical in the Big Ten these days?
I do. I mean, are you asking basically, do you think it can work? I mean, can it be to the tune that he can play the position that Nebraska needs him to be successful overall?
Yeah, like it, and maybe this is like a confirmation bias, like maybe because I'm thinking like Taylor Martinez against Washington, where he could just take off, and get all those QB rushing yards in. Is it practical these days?
I mean, it's practical, but Nebraska has a pro-style quarterback. I mean, what would help Kevin is, and these are priorities in the offseason, whether you're buying them or you're recruiting them, Nebraska needs an NFL wide receiver to pair with Raiola. And they need to fix the running back room. The group of running backs in Nebraska are the poorest that it has been in a long time from a program that used to be I Back You.
Yep.
They are just they are near the bottom in terms of position group rankings in the Big Ten, and that does not help this offense at all.
And I don't think it helps Raiola on being his best self.
Yep. Kevin, thank you for the call. Here is Gary. Gary, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Based on what was the question that you wanted everybody to ask?
All right, so if you wait a minute, you didn't remember the question, but you called anyhow?
Yeah, I did, because I know the question, and it got me going. No, Satterfield.
So
at this point,
when you rewatched the game, did your opinion on Nebraska's offense change at all from watching it live?
No, because I don't feel we're putting Mr. Raiola in a position to be successful as a freshman quarterback.
What would you do then differently to put him? I'm not disagreeing with you, Gary. Your job is to major in the major and forget about minors, and put your guys in the best position to succeed without banging your head on the wall where you become predictable. But what would you do to make this offense move down the field and score points, because they can't score points? 4 teams in the Big Ten scored 28 or more this weekend, and Nebraska's talking about their offense. And
did we spend more time in spring practice and in fall practice reinventing the pass blocking skills and not refine the run blocking skills?
Well, I mean, that's their strength. I mean, I would love first and foremost for guys to be able to blow off the ball and move the line of scrimmage 4 or 5 yards. They've turned into a pretty good pass pro team. Let's see. Ohio State had 14 blitzes on Saturday, and Raiola on 39 dropbacks was only pressured 7 times. I'll take that every day.
Mm-hmm. All right. And by the way, did you get out and play golf yesterday with beautiful weather?
It was beautiful weather. I did at the end of last week. Thank you for asking.
Good. You're welcome, buddy.
Someday we're going to play.
I did. I played yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm a player.
Let's sneak in one more before the break. Good morning, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. So I was sitting here thinking over the weekend after the game was that, I think that when we talk about Satterfield, and I think you guys would agree with me, it's more than just the play calling. I read an article on one of the online sources that was talking about how people were really overreacting to his rather clunky answer earlier in the week to the question during the press conference. And I sat and I thought, well, maybe when you look at the defense, they are a reflection of their coach, okay? The fire, the attention to detail, all of those things. And I think that, since Satterfield is the offensive coordinator, and yes, he's in charge of play calling, but he's in charge of that entire side of the ball. And I feel like that answer and how that answer came across was kind of a microcosm of how he is and what his side of the ball is. It's clunky, it's not disciplined, it doesn't have any passion, and you can see that when they go out there on the field. So I'll hang up and listen to your thoughts.
Dan, thank you.
I think a lot of the frustration, and we get into this a lot, of starting with the offensive line and the inability to run the football, because if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that this group would be a better pass pro than it would be a run blocking team, I wouldn't have completely said, uh-oh. I would have asked, okay, so how upgraded is the overall passing game?
Mm-hmm.
Are we seeing games where Nebraska's averaging 250 plus, 275 plus in the passing game? Because if that was the case, then I'd say, okay, that's fine, because you can still have a offensive line that protects your quarterback, because wasn't that going to be paramount? And Dylan's success too is being able to keep him upright as long as the running game had an effect, had some type of impact in this offense. Because on paper, again, now knowing what we know, I don't like it. I would much rather see this offensive line be this road grading. Anytime you need to run the football, you can, and you're going to get something out of it, where that's not the case with this group right now. So a lot of it does come with what the offensive line does well and what they don't do well. But I don't
think they're terrible.
I think they're limited.
That's probably the best way to describe it, is limited.
I think they're limited, but it's also what.
And they actually, I thought they had a pretty good day on Saturday, run blocking, pass blocking combined.
And okay, so even in the first sack of the game in that first drive, I don't even necessarily know if that was on the offensive line as much as there was a pocket that Dylan just didn't step into, as opposed to kind of faded off to his left and went right into where the blitz was coming. So I put that maybe a little bit more on 15 than the offensive line. But the thing that, and we've discussed this ad nauseum, and it again shows up on Saturday, is where you are with the running backs. You've said this a lot, and I think you can make this case for different players on the offense, whether it's wide receiver, running back, even quarterback. When you just have a guy that's so good that masks any type of deficiencies that you have offensively, Nebraska, more than anything right now, needs that in the running game, needs that as a running back, and they don't have it.
They got to go, hey, in the offseason, you got to go get yourself a running back one.
Like a real one.
And Dowdell then doesn't have to be running back one.
Yep.
And then you go get yourself an NFL wide receiver. That's what this quarterback needs if you're going to go with a pro-style offense. The position group in Nebraska is not very good at all. I just think there's so many, vision, just not able to break away from. You break away from a safety, you hit your head on the goalpost on Saturday.
Yep.
And there's just not consistency, and the guy pulling the trigger would be more than just a established game manager.
Right.
It's kind of what Dylan was in the month of October.
You're absolutely right.
I guess he did it well.
Yeah.
But
you're right.
He can come to Nebraska to be a game manager.
100%. Amen.
Ben Otte will join us at the top of the hour here on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back, and everybody. Embrace these days, my friends, because we are getting fewer and fewer of the back patio beer nights. This will be another one.
Oh, yeah.
I think we can go all week. We can
go all winter.
Don't you like a good?
Yeah, but
you can be outside with a hoodie on and maybe a fire pit going.
Yeah, but
I know we need more rain to have fire pits.
But I don't want to have to. I don't have to do things. I just want to enjoy the beer on the back patio. Okay, not have to wear the hoodie or fire up the fire pit or So embrace these because the weather is actually really, really nice. As we go into November, I can't wait for November. Whether it be around here with the 4 games or college football.
Or
college
November
football
rain.
is going to be a November to remember.
Saturday could be a bit of a cold November rain. 60 and a little rainy.
What are they saying?
75%
raining in the
rain.
morning for UCLA?
Yeah.
Bring on the Bruins in. It'll remind Eric Bieniemy of 1990 when he walked into Memorial Stadium and it was pouring rain.
Oh, don't do that.
A little colder that day, though. So
Hey.
there's that.
Look what happened. I mean, former Buffs came back into the stadium in September. Look what happened.
Yep.
But it's okay,
You should
folks. I'm going to touch the money. Go ahead and start perusing your bowl destinations. And you win on Saturday. Celebrate it accordingly.
Game is
celebrated accordingly that it is 6 because that might be the unlocking to the free and easy of Nebraska football is to become bowl eligible. The bar has been lowered.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear from you, Iowa. I don't want to hear definitely from Colorado fan. But get to 6. Get to 6. Go from there. Get it on Saturday so you don't have to then go into a bye week on a 3-game losing streak.
Oh, man.
But November is here we go. College football, next Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
action.
That's gonna be a crazy day on Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
Why?
I think that is
Something
the
going on?
first. I think that's the first college football playoff rankings are released.
And
On
Maction?
election day?
No.
Oh, wait, that's next week?
What's going on?
Next Tuesday?
We're talking about
Next
Maction.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Oh, thousands have already voted. They don't even know what next Tuesday is about. But I think November is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
What also Saturday showed me, again, I've said this. Nebraska's a solid team. They're not great. And when you play a team like Ohio State and you create breaks or you have so many things that go against you that you're trying to overcome, and there's no denying, even my Buckeye friends are like, man, you guys got screwed. Yeah, we got screwed. And you guys probably got screwed because I don't think that's the right coach for you. But you do have a great offensive coordinator. I'll get to him in a moment. Is Nebraska still is in the transition of too many great effort culture guys.
Yeah.
Those are important for the program.
Yeah.
But you don't want the great effort culture gang to outnumber the dudes.
100%.
Okay, so Nebraska's in that weird spot where they're trying to make the transition. They want them,
Yep.
but they would also like to have them be dudes.
Yeah.
But right now, you got some great effort culture guys that aren't necessarily your dudes.
Yep.
So a game like Saturday points that out even more. Now, about Ohio State. You guys got problems. I'm not worried about you. Good luck against Penn State this weekend. Indiana's offense is better than Ohio State. You know what? Your vaunted running game, I don't care if you had a backup left tackle who turned into a turnstile, and Nebraska owes Ohio State so much money for admission of going through that turnstile all day on Saturday. Good luck against Penn State. Indiana's offense is better, in my opinion, than Ohio State. Chip Kelly's really good. So on a rewatch, I asked about Satterfield.
Yeah.
So I thought it was 2 blown assignments. And Gifford was a role. Gifford is a great effort culture guy, but has limitations.
Yes, he does.
That's kind of one of the guys I'm talking
Yes, he
about.
does. High motor, all those things.
I thought they were blown assignments.
Yep.
They might have been communication from the play call to what they were doing on the back end. And that's where Butler and White need to come together.
Yeah.
People on TV can see it.
You're going to the
People can
Jeremiah
see
Smith touchdown,
I'm
aren't
doing
you?
that.
Yes. Because I think I know exactly where you're going with this.
So, but it is a great play call because they put Gifford in an awkward position where is he going to play the run or the pass? And he thinks run because they show an element of the run game that they had shown earlier. And then all of a sudden Smith is by him. Chip Kelly is a great, and I mean great, play designer in the run game or the pass game. Their run game was stopped by Nebraska, but what they wanted to do, and you watch it from, because I got Saturday was the first time that I've had access to the PFF film.
Yeah.
So that's where my tweet of the Banks rub play that Banks was open, that Dylan's got to hit that shot.
Yep.
Man, Chip Kelly's really good. Chip Kelly as a offensive mind is the best money that Ohio State has spent all year.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that one up because I think like a lot of us were more focusing on what didn't go right for Nebraska's defense on that play to Jeremiah Smith. When you watch how they were bunched up on that side, so essentially he's not even out on the edge. So just the proximity he is to the line of scrimmage and to the lineman itself, and there was zero hesitation. You put him basically in a position where a safety that most safeties in college football aren't going to be able to stay with him, especially once he gets hip to hip with him before he's even at the safety position. There's nobody that's going to be able to catch him. Having him just on an all-out dead sprint up that seam, it was just a great play call. I was thinking about that too. Do I go in on Gifford? Just communication without question is got to be better in that situation.
Real time, it looked like a blown assignment.
It did. But if you look at how Nebraska was aligned, I don't know how they could have defended that. I honestly don't. Even if you are somehow able to roll coverage over to eliminate really the top end of where Jeremiah Smith is, he's still running by you. And all it comes down to is Will Howard having to make a throw to a guy that you could throw at 20 yards in front of him and he's going to make that catch. So the way that they lined up and then ultimately option A was pretty impressive. I do want to say this, and I'd be curious what you thought watching this back. I said this on Big Red Overreaction, and I'm still sticking to this. This is where I think this is an Ohio State issue, I believe, because I don't know how much of Ryan Day and Chip Kelly were a part of the last two possessions. Once Ohio State took the lead and had those remaining possessions, some of the play calls that they had on third down, especially the last play on third down.
They don't trust Will Howard.
I agree. I totally agree. And think about after the interception, what did they have Will Howard do? Throw screen. And he was a little bit erratic in that moment. Where
1 for 10 on third down.
Mm-hmm. And even with his numbers, where the numbers would lead you to believe that he was efficient, how many times other than those two big plays, they push it down the field? But on that third down, this was what maybe stood out to me the most about Chip Kelly is the amount of guys you have on that field that you could put Nebraska in some type of a blender, and you're probably going to come up with something on that third down where it's lights out, game over. Nebraska didn't even get the ball back to try to win the football game. Is they go with that, a screenplay where I think if we're going to be fair and talk about the numbers game where Nebraska's calling screen passes in the horizontal passing game when they are completely outnumbered, just don't have enough blockers to get out there. That was ×2 on that final play that Ohio State went with, where you had 6 defenders right there, maybe 2 blockers out for Ohio State. That thing, even on a cutback, had zero chance of even getting back to the line of scrimmage. Thinking to myself, is that a Chip Kelly, a Ryan Day thing, or is that Ryan Day saying to Chip Kelly, we probably need to pass, but do not let Will Howard try to go anything beyond 5 yards? Because that was a bad call. That was a bad play.
Injuries for Ohio State. That's going to be something to watch moving forward with them.
And you got a dude out for the first half of the game next week.
I mean, you play Penn State. Penn State brought in the backup quarterback. Boy, he looked good.
Yep, they looked good on the road,
value of
too.
college football and having a backup quarterback. When we come back, we'll dive into the defense a little bit because as Nebraska moves into the month of November, UCLA bye week, USC, Wisconsin, Iowa. The best offensive player Nebraska will see in November, Caleb Johnson.
Yeah.
Who? Caleb Johnson. I know all the Heisman talk is about Cam Ward and Travis Hunter and Genty.
Yeah.
Caleb Johnson deserves some love. If you look at Iowa's stats, he's got 47% of their yards from scrimmage as a running back.
And an offense that's actually put up some good yards, too.
But, there's 4 different type of offenses. UCLA can't run the football. USC is kind of hit or miss, depending on what kind of a day at the office Moss is going to have.
Yep.
But this is about the defense. The month of November will be about the defense. It seems like September, October, and now November will be about the defense. But I'm going to pose a question on what does the defense need to do in November to get to minimum 2-2 and maybe a 3-1 or maybe even a 4-0 if the offense is capable of something. We'll get into that when we come back. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in on the Monday, the 28th of October, kicking off a week. Nebraska, UCLA at the end of the week. That is a 2:30 kick. Again, there'll be some morning rain. Going to feel like maybe early fall.
Yeah.
For the UCLA Bruins in a Big Ten game coming to the house, where the line probably was a little exaggerated. Opened at 10.5, down to 7.5.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a little bit lighter than that. So do what you will with that. Also nice to hear here on the Zone that My Patriot Supply is back. You know, it's about that time of the year. Bam.
I'm not even going to touch
Bam.
that. I'm not even going to touch that.
A lot of discussion going on the chat about Marcus Satterfield.
Props on some of the nicknames, by the way, guys. Good job.
On Marcus Satterfield?
Yeah. We've got Shatterfield. I have to go all the way back up. I don't know. There's some. Shatterfield was the last one I saw. That was pretty good. But there's a couple other ones. And I saw a few on Saturday as well. Scatterfield, I saw that one.
The thing with
Barfield.
The thing with Nebraska's offensive coordinator, if he had a past history of success, people might be willing to give him a pause.
Yep.
But in his time of calling plays, there hasn't been a pattern of success.
Mm-hmm.
So that does not help his cause. And then everything that has gone on through the first 20 games.
Yep.
Texture Bernie says they got to stop playing not to lose, start playing to win the damn game. What happens when you play not to lose? You lose.
Mm-hmm.
Just strikes me as there are times where they're so scared of the turnover. I think I might also with the offense. I think I might put in a call to my good friend at Triple B.
What you got?
Embrace the slant.
and Instead of like embrace the suck.
Drake DeGrassi on Twitter.
Yeah.
He will buy that shirt with me. Embrace the slant.
It's really good. It's not where I thought you were going to go either. That's very good.
We've gone back and forth about, hey, maybe try a slant here. Because actually I think that benefits Banks and Nair is running the slant.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan can get the ball out quick.
Yeah, I think he can get on time.
But it's very rare that they run that play.
Yeah. In love with the horizontal passing game. Could we even call the slant vertical?
Well, okay. Is Nebraska the ultimate boomer bust team? Poll question. Because Dylan has a crazy number from Saturday where he has 6 completions of 10 or more yards and then 6 completions for negative yards.
Yeah.
0 negative yards.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do. But when you are a game manager instead of what you should be as a game changer, I think that's like the ideal box score line for a quarterback.
When your quarterback overall was 21 of 32, like, okay, I'm interested. But what if I tell you that 21 out of those 21 passes, 10 of those were completed screen passes? Isn't that by definition, as far as the low risk average reward, that is a game manager?
I think only one completion went 10 or more yards down the field.
Yes, one of five.
Right?
One of five on throws 10 to 19 yards.
So with the offensive struggles, and, we just went through a month of October where they averaged, the last 2 Octobers, Nebraska's averaged 17 points.
Mm-hmm.
And they've lost one football game. No, two football games. One got their butt kicked. And then, of course, what happened on Saturday, who very disrespectful of Ohio State said, we weren't supposed to be in that type of a game. Well, that's on you. You know what? Man, you got
figured out, Ryan.
You got some issues there in Columbus. Good luck to you. I hope that things go well. You know what? But
you really heated up that pass rush too.
The question becomes, as Nebraska moves into November, is what happens if the defense gives up a big play or two and they give up 17 to 21 points? Can Nebraska football win a game in the month of November where the defense, I'm just going to say, gives up 17?
Okay. Yeah. But I also think the defense has a lot to do with the reason why they can as well, even if they give up 17. I'll use UCLA as an example because of what they do in the passing game. They're a volume passing game or passing team. You mentioned it. They don't run the ball, but I think the last game, now, mind you, that was a little bit more of a shootout. Ethan Garbers threw 43 or 47 times in that game. Either way, he's attempted a lot of passes. This is an offense that is going to give you a lot of opportunities to at least make plays defensively. So, and you kind of asked this question earlier, if what you need to get from the defense when you got a quarterback that has already thrown their quarterback at UCLA that's already thrown 9 interceptions, that element does exist. So against certain teams, if you are giving up 17, where there might be a couple of plays, they got a couple of receivers that they're going to lean on a little bit that could maybe hit big plays, but also what you can do defensively and creating that catastrophic moment with a turnover. So almost the defense giveth, also taketh away. I understand this is an offensive question, but I'm not going to say they can't just based on the offense, because I think they can if they're getting help from the defense as well, if that turnover is coming in a game like this against UCLA. Now, other teams like a Wisconsin, like an Iowa, that are going to control the ball more with the run game, if we use what you just asked there with those two teams, right now, do I have confidence? No. I don't have confidence because, again, of the lack of identity with this offense. And a lot of that, I don't think that this is, to me, this isn't, well, you got to wait till the offseason. You just don't have the players to do that. I am still waiting for an opportunity for them to take the shackles, if you will, off of Dylan Raiola. I thought this was a great game for him to go downfield. And I go back to a matchup that clearly they thought at least he was worth going after. And number one, the cornerback for Ohio State, Igmanason, that you knew this was a guy you wanted to target. So why are you not stretching those plays out a little bit more? I just want to see Dylan have that opportunity to where it's just not as safe. So I think they could, if they're willing to do that. I just don't know if they're willing to do that. And I don't know if Satterfield's ever going to let them do that.
So I'm not ready to make a prediction yet because it's way too early in the week. I got to see the participant. I got to see the injury report. But this feels like if Nebraska doesn't turn the football over, they win 24-14.
Agreed.
But I want to throw this out there. Do you know that in the Matt Rule era that is now going to go into game 21, Nebraska has never won a game where the defense has given up more than 14 points?
So then you're talking about the margin for error is that much smaller. So even if you say UCLA
it's
or
Power 4 competition,
never
given up in a Matt Rule win, they have never given up more than 14 points. So if they give up 17,
right, which is not a lot,
does that mean that they lose on a last second field goal?
Oh God. And 17 is not a lot of points. If your defensive unit could hold a team, I don't even care how bad they are, how bad a team is that you're playing, and you can hold them to 17 points, that should be more than enough for your offense to overcome and win a football game. It absolutely should be. And that's interesting of the 14, because you would think, okay, 20, they've never given up more than 21 when it comes to a win and a loss. That is,
people are going to get angered here. Nick, you lead them to anger. You lead them to the anger chamber.
Try not to.
At your favorite haunted house. Last 2 Octobers, Nebraska's gone 4-2, and the offense has averaged 16 points.
It just puts so much on your defense.
Yep.
It just does.
But this is where you lead them to the anger chamber. What if they had a more refined scoring offense to partner with the defense? You know what? Big Red Overreaction is still on the air, and people are unclothed at 72nd and Dodge, and they think this is the second coming, and we don't get a sermon after the game. We get, that's what I told you was going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
okay, let me ask you.
You rely so much on the defense.
Did you? Now, this is actually kind of a lesser version of the conversation I think people have in 09. Of if we just had an offense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lesser version because I don't want to compare that defense to that defense.
But this defense is still
it's
top
good,
20.
And it's still its identity, without question. Let me ask you this. At any point when Nebraska took the lead, did you think we were going to come on the air and say, wow?
No.
I didn't either. I mean, like it never thought.
Even as much faith as I have in the defense, I thought once Nebraska scored, Ohio State would have a response, and Nebraska couldn't get off the field.
I was,
but then
kind of a problem.
Then you had no faith that the offense was going to be able to respond.
Right. That if they were getting the ball back,
we're in hell, gentlemen. We're in hell.
Thanks, Al Pacino.
Just get to 6. Just to get to 6.
Coach D'Amato.
Get to 6 and see if people go free and easy.
I think there's something to that.
Whether
really
it be on the beach or at Memorial Stadium or throughout the state.
Easy like a Sunday morning. I think there's something to that.
That'd be nice because yesterday was a long day. Oh, that was a long Sunday morning.
Long Sunday
People wanted to
afternoon for me.
talk. People wanted to talk. Ben Audie wants to talk, so we'll give him a forum. He's coming up right after the break from the BA Coaches Show. He will break down every screen pass that Nebraska threw, why it worked and did not work, and what can be fixed in the screen game. That much more, plus much more, coming up next on 1620 The Zone. All right, rolling into the third hour of Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Post Ohio State, ahead of the World Series tonight. We had a walk-off grand slam to end a World Series game and a Hail Mary, all in the same weekend. And we had the witching hour, which is a banger on the Red Zone. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get back into some
Thank
more
you.
positive stuff. Let's talk about Nebraska, Ohio State with our good friend Ben Hottie from the BA Coaches Show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
You know what?
I've been better, Ben.
Yeah. It's not Victory Monday on the show across the board.
Nope.
So
Except for one guy in here for his NFL team. That's it.
Hey, just be happy about it, okay? Because we were just a couple more swing passes and screens away from winning. So I think if we just ran a few more of those, we'd be in a really good place today.
All right, let's start there. I think the screen pass is a low-hanging fruit, but we will get to it. But let me start here. So, I want to know what Nebraska saw that they could win the perimeter against Ohio State, that they would run those screens. But I think it goes deeper, Ben. Why was Nebraska successful when they would run three wide? They didn't run as many, 3-by-1, but when they ran three wide, they were more successful than anything they tried out of the bunch set. Did you see the same thing as you watched it live and then watched it on the rewind?
I did see that. Overall, I felt a little bit better about the offense as a whole. I felt better about some of the run game. I can't quite put my finger on exactly why. And this is something I kind of have talked about with some guys of like how I really feel about this game. I know this is such a cop-out answer, but like I think I'll really know how I feel about the Ohio State game, like next Saturday night, right? After I see
fair.
like
That's fair, and that's
how
I'm with you on
I
that.
guess. Like I saw a lot of things that I liked, honestly, on all three sides, even on offense, and we did have some success doing things. And I think in some ways we took advantage of some things that Ohio State, was giving us. But at the same time, I'm like, I just want to see it next week. I want to see if this is what gets the ball rolling, if that makes sense. Because I feel like we've seen this program as a whole, take a lot of steps forward in the past, and it just not been able to, keep that momentum going. So, I really feel like we did some good things offensively, despite my, some jokes about some of the screens and swings and whatnot. But man, I feel like we're right there, but I really just want to see how we end up looking in a week.
I want to bring something up. I mentioned this to Gary earlier of watching the first drive of the second half, that the two run plays that Dylan goes under center, they give you positive results. I think 5 and 7, if I remember correctly.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And if you watch from Ben Scott onto the left side, there just seemed to be more of a push. The engagement right there was a lot more noticeable than when you saw even the 15-yard run that Dante Dowdell has out of the shotgun on the same drive. Is this something that Nebraska just shows to show, or do you think there is more of an effort, as Marcus Satterfield said last week, of the mindset of being able to run the football, that you're going to see it phased in more and more where Dylan is under center? Because it's hard not to notice how the offensive line and the initial surge is just something as simple as him under center.
That's a really good question. I very much hope this is something that we're going to continue doing going forward. I think it is. I hope it is. After, that lovely press conference, that's now must-see TV on Tuesdays. I hope this is something we see going forward, just because running under center is something in the Big Ten I feel like you just absolutely need to do. And just from a, schematic standpoint, it is so much, I don't want to say easier, but it's just a different dynamic, being able to get a vertical push. In your inside run game, you've got to be able to get this vertical push. And we were seeing that being under center. It gets your running backs able to get a full head of steam as opposed to running out of the shotgun. Like when he's getting that ball, that running back is coming full head of steam, vertical push by our offensive line. Like, I'm not saying that running out of the shotgun isn't a thing that we should be able to do. Like, obviously we should, but I just feel like in the Big Ten, being able to get under center, play some big boy football, get a good push up front, hand the ball off, is something you just got to be able to do. And I'm glad that after 19, 20 games, Satterfield has realized that that's something we need to do. And I hope it sticks around for a while, because I agree. I thought our run game looks better under center.
Is Dylan Raiola making progress?
I think it's a tough question right now because I don't think he's playing great for the last few games. I don't think that's breaking news. Gary, I heard something that you said on your podcast, The Average Joe Sports Show, I think it's called. Look at me pulling that out of my head. But
yes,
I think it would be interesting to know if at the end of the season, that's something we would never hear until the very end. But if something's bothering, I don't have any sort of inside it's all speculation, but something has just seemed off. The mechanics have seemed off for the last few weeks. The throwing motion just seemed a little bit off. We're not really wanting to push the ball down the field that well. So it's just kind of interesting. I don't know, because I like to kind of fall on the fact that, he's a 18, 19-year-old kid, but at the same time, we're 8 games in, and I feel like we're still kind of in the same spot as we have been for the last few weeks.
And he's taken a beating. And I said that because it's almost like that comes out in February of, he was battling a shoulder injury or ankle, because the other thing that is not normal for him that was really good at the beginning is his footwork has gotten really poor. And I don't know if that's because the game is sped up or there's something else he's trying to make up for. He looks clunky. And I know that's not him.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. In coming into college, if there was one thing that you would kind of pinpoint to, he obviously super talented. This is kind of nitpicky, but it's the one thing that you would say that he really needed to improve on getting to the college game were his footwork and his eyes, right? Mm-hmm. And as the game, I feel like going against some pretty good Big Ten defenses, really well coached, I feel like we're seeing more of, as the game kind of speeds up, you're seeing a little bit more, hey, this kid still, needs to work on his footwork and his eye discipline. And I don't know. Again, I know we're 8 games in, but he's still young. And if there is something bothering him, I don't know. I think that's a good point. And like I said, I think if there was something coming in that he needed to, improve through college coaching, it was going to be his footwork and discipline. And I think as we're getting deeper into the schedule against some really good teams, those are just kind of exposing itself a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Okay, so with that, Ben, we saw more of the run game of him, or whether it was designed, whether it was on his own instincts, whatever it was. My question is, he took – this was one of my favorite things about that first drive against Colorado, is where there was a third down, and he didn't hesitate. He found a little bit of a lane. He got there, got the first down, kept that drive going. Then we know what happened after that. It was game on. It was blowout on, all that stuff. We saw him have a little bit more of that sense of urgency to use it if it was there. 2 questions. One, is that just Dylan instincts or an emphasis during the week as they're preparing of, hey, don't be afraid to take off? And the second part of the question is, where has that been between the Colorado game and the Ohio State game?
Okay, so to answer your first part of your question, yes, I think it is instinct, just because I don't think that I don't think it's kind of like a Harburg situation where they're teaching him to go, right, 1 read, 2 read, maybe a 3rd read, and then take off. I think it's more of a, hey, they've got no one spying on me. Hey, they're in man coverage. The only one looking at me is 20 yards down the field, covering a deep pass. So I'm going to take what I can get. So I think that's instinctually. The second part to your question of where do I think this has been? I'm not quite sure. I would love to see, I guess, a little bit more of this.
Yeah.
Because you think I don't know, Rutgers and Indiana, they ran a lot of man against us. So theoretically, you might have some stuff like that. But I also feel obviously when you're taking off scrambling and running, I know your offensive line doesn't play a huge part into that. But at the same time, if you get if we're not holding up well on the edges necessarily, you're not going to be able to do a great job, getting that scramble, especially if your footwork's not the best. And I'm not, trying to take shots. I'm just saying those are just some things of, hey, if you're slowed down by a little bit, you might not be able. I think part of it schematically, and again, I think last week against Indiana, obviously during that game, there some ankle things, so maybe that's what's been going on. But so I don't really know, but I do think it is an instinctual thing of, I don't think they're necessarily coaching that in. I'm like, hey, this week we're gonna have you run a little bit more. Hey, if it's there, take it. I think that's probably there every week. Just I feel like if it was being coached, we would have saw that more last week against Indiana, and we just didn't see it.
Yeah, that he's one to watch in the full off season with strength and conditioning, and also working on just the mechanics of playing quarterback and the knowledge of what he's going through this year. Sticking with that, so this is also and you and I have talked, hampered by not having that big-time running back or an NFL wide receiver. So tough to be a pro-style quarterback when you don't have that element. And then I want to throw this in here, and I want you to sift through this for our audience. So Jordan Hancock is the defensive back that picks off the pass to end the game. And then after the game, one of the Ohio State reporters asked him to go through the play. And this is what he said. Quote, "It's a relief for sure. The defense was out there fighting. I saw they were repeating older routes. After watching film, I noticed what they were doing, and I didn't really get depth on the post, so I stayed there. The ball felt like it took 20 seconds to get to me, even though it was only 2 seconds. But overall, it was awesome." When you know what Nebraska is up against offensively and what they're trying to do, and then you hear an opposing defensive back, and this isn't new. Nebraska talked about what they were seeing with Colorado after the game. But when you hear this after Saturday, what is your response or reaction?
My response, I don't love hearing that, obviously. I don't think it's absolutely that uncommon, but when you're going against a team as well coached and with as many resources and as Ohio State's going to end up being, obviously their players are going to be really smart and well coached up to be able to recognize that sort of thing. So I definitely don't love that, especially with some of the game on the line. I feel like you should probably have some things on your call sheet that are not necessarily new, but give it new sorts of looks on how we're going to make a drive down the field. And, from the Ohio State side, I mean, hey, like I said, they're going to be really well coached up. And when that kid made the comment about it being, feeling way slower to him, what did he say, like 20 seconds, even though it was 2, that's just a result of how well coached they are and how slowed down the game is for them. I don't think for our offense, the game is slowed down for us at all. I feel like that's just a big difference. And you can tell of, I guess, the experience and coaching level, the difference between, I guess, Nebraska's offense and Ohio State's defense. I feel like just because if they're able to have the game feel that much slowed to them. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm watching Nebraska's offense, I definitely don't think the game is slowed down for them at all.
Gary and I were talking about this on Saturday. I don't want to continue to single him out, but he was supposed to have a bigger impact on this offense, and unfortunately he's been MIA in a lot of the season in big spots of a game when it comes to being a target, but also now the perimeter blocking. Jamal Banks, what he provides right now, and I want to get your opinion of, because this is what Gary and I were talking about, is effort versus technique, or both, when it comes to inability to just make a block on the perimeter. And then maybe the bigger question is, why continue to go that route and in that direction where 4 has to make a block?
Yeah, that's where I have been perplexed by this whole situation. Is just, I think a lot of it is effort. I know, I just feel like he has the body type to be a very good perimeter blocker. What has, I guess, I've been struggling with is it's not like he has been such a threat throwing the ball that we need to have him out there so they have the threat of it. Like if he's a guy that's just, absolutely out there dominating, then hey, it makes sense to keep him out there. And even if he's not necessarily going to be a great threat on the perimeter blocking, they at least got to account for him. It's not like he's been that great, if that makes sense. Like he's been good, don't get me wrong, but it's not like he's dominating the game to where the fact that they need to account for him at all times. So I do think it's an effort thing, and just the perimeter blocking is something that I have been struggling with, and it's something, just kind of rewind a bit. I feel like a lot of things, kind of got said last Tuesday have just kind of made me raise my eyebrows a bit of being like, hey man, if we know our perimeter blocking isn't good and we're all acknowledging, it doesn't take a genius to look at the game and figure that out. But now that we're acknowledging publicly that the perimeter blocking isn't good, what are we going to do about it? And I know they're working on it in practice. I understand that they're a Division I program, but it's like, if we have guys in the game taking in-game reps that are not blocking, whether it's effort, whether it's technique, I tend to think it's effort, but I could be completely wrong. I'm just speculating on that, I guess, just from what I'm seeing looking at the game. Why are they in the game? I'll give a shout out to these guys. Hey, it should be no block, no rock. That's something I've instilled in any wide receivers or running backs that I've coached. No block, no rock. But the other thing I'm just trying to figure out is like, why are we still trying to put them in positions why are we running, these plays that require perimeter blocking from guys that have not shown the ability on tape to make good, consistent perimeter blocks? I'm trying to figure that out. I just feel like we have to have I know we have people in that room that, will come out there and block. And if we have to, I guess, limit some of our, deep threats, but we're not pushing the ball down the field anyway right now. That's kind of my thing, is we're not really pushing the ball down the field anyway now. So why are we so insistent on, I guess, having these guys in there that aren't making the perimeter blocks? It's something that's bothered me for the last few weeks of just, we know the perimeter blocking isn't good. What are we doing about it beside, we're going to work on it in practice? Because clearly something's not clicking there.
Yep.
So what are we going to do about it?
There's a want to, there's a pride. There's also a want to run the officials out of the Big Ten. You only get to pick one. See, we waited until this. We waited until 8:15 to talk about the officiating. We could have started this morning with officiating and just let everybody burn because it was bad. You only get to pick one. What was the most egregious call from Saturday, in your opinion?
The missed spot on what should have been a first down by a full yard, 2 yards. That's mind-blowing to me. I understand that during the game, obviously, like, Matt Rule's not going to notice that. All he sees is, hey, it's fourth down, or third, whatever it was. Third down, I can't remember what down it was off the top of my head, but hey, we got to get going. We got to get a first down, right? But for no one in the replay booth to signal down or anything, what's the point of them being there? If you look at it earlier in the game when they needed to review something later in the game, it was very instantly, as soon as that ball hits the ground, within 5 seconds, they're signaling down there that, they need to review this. That spot not even being reviewed whatsoever. When I went back and looked at that play again, I do think that that referee thought Latowski had.
Yeah.
That is mind-blowing.
Which is even, exactly. That is more crazy, the fact that he thought the offensive lineman was the ball carrier. This isn't the Chicago Bears trying to score from the 1 yard line.
Yes,
sorry, I had to throw that.
That blows my mind. And I don't think Matt Rule noticed this in the moment, because I feel like he would have had a bigger meltdown. I'll just tell you, if I would have noticed that and I was on the sideline in the morning, I'd have to be calling some people to probably bail me out of jail today, because that was real bad.
Yeah, well, there's also a spot of a Jalen Lloyd play that they missed on a yard, and they missed.
Yeah, 100%. That was just the one off the top of my head. I just couldn't figure out.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. That one is awful. That is. Hey, they spent all this money on this review center in Chicago. How come they're not in stadium? That's pretty easy, just to go to buzz down and go, hey, we're going to look at the spot because it's off by 3 yards. Oh, by the way, it's impacting the game because the clock is still running.
Yep.
All right, where can people get your content and your angst and your positivity going into the month of November this week?
You can go to YouTube, go to the BA Coaches Show. We got next episode covering Ohio State coming out first thing tomorrow morning. You go to nbnrpodcast.com. You can check out the blog, Red Zone Reflections. Or if you also want to check out my video content or just a whole bunch of Husker content, go to characterchronicles.com. You guys obviously know him. He's got a whole bunch of Husker content on that website, and that's where you can find the BA Coaches Show.
Yep. Hey, good talking to you, Ben. Thank you for trying to walk us through all this.
Hey, you guys as well. Hope you guys have a fantastic week, because I feel good about the month of November.
Hey, grab your bowl destination. It's going to happen.
See you in New York.
Oh, yeah. All
right. Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
My question is, here in the game of football where we've got all this money, we got all this technology, and you look at like tennis and you look at like the other sports that have this technology, why? And I know we want to make America great and we want to keep people employed by working on the chain gang. Why can we not have technology to spot the football?
I wish I could answer that. I really do. I wish I could answer that.
I think there have been experimental, like in the preseason in the NFL, but no one is afraid to go there because we don't want to put the older chain gang people out of work.
You can still use them. They can still mark. They can still give you the dial-a-down. They can still have all of that presence on there. The inability, I mentioned this on Saturday. We've seen egregious officiating in the sport of football for now the last couple of years, and it's taking on new levels, and you see something maybe new every Saturday or Sunday that you didn't think there was a call in the Bears game. I'm not even going to get into that, how it's not even reviewed or even discussed as a face mask. But anyway, this was the first game that I saw the challenges that an officiating crew had in simple spots of just being able to spot the football. Like, I get it once in a while, maybe one creeps up. We see that a lot where a coach will challenge just because, I think we got the spot. And that is the difference between a, fourth down or third down situation as opposed to a first down. But 3 in this game alone, you mentioned the Jalen Lloyd, the one before halftime. There was another one that was, I'm trying to remember.
That was a Hartzog play.
Yes, thank you. Of how does that happen that many times? Of something that I think, because you don't typically talk about it that much, seems to be a very elementary part of the job, right? Yeah. I mean, you have your line judges there. Yeah. They're usually pretty close to the accuracy. There's that little window of maybe about a half a yard. And I get it. Sometimes that can be the difference between making it and having to make a very tough decision on the sideline. But for that to happen to the point that we're talking 2 or 3 yards short. That's incredible.
Evan Bland, still to come in the hour. Also, we'll check in with Jacob Bigalow. We will talk a little basketball as Nebraska played yesterday. 1 week from today is the start of college basketball season. Also, we'll slip in some Creighton stuff if you happen to be downtown on Saturday night to see Creighton and Purdue. Pretty cool. I saw they raised $150,000. More of those, less of Creighton, Bemidji State, or Nebraska Grand Valley State, or Omaha York. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, Evan Bland of the World Herald is coming up here in a little bit on this Sports Equinox Day. Everybody is playing today. So if you were disappointed there was no baseball yesterday, Game 3 of the World Series tonight, will Aaron Judge get booed at Yankee Stadium, where the ticket prices, by the way, are dropping? A lot of confidence there in the Yankees of making this a series down 2-0 with an absolute failure by Aaron Boone in Game 1 with his pitching choice.
And now, will we see some? Are you trying to say that there's not going to be as many seats occupied in the lower bowl, though, as far as the ticket prices going down?
No, I mean the place will be, but it's not as expensive as you would think.
Because we were getting $1,300 was the going price in L.A.
Yep. But
initially.
do you think Judge will get booed? Nobody has had a worse postseason on that level than Aaron Judge.
I know you're right, and I don't think he will. I think they'll try to prop him up. I know New York fans are tough.
Walker Buehler is dealing tonight. You don't think people will let Judge have it?
Okay, if he strikes out first at bat, yes, he does. But as he's making his way to the plate, no. He's still their guy. They'll still do roll call. He'll still be, hey. But if he strikes out, if that's what you're asking, yeah, absolutely. He will get booed, and he will get booed every time he comes up from that point on. They're very unforgiving that way. I will say this, though, because he even in the 2 losses, man, postseason Giancarlo Stanton, holy cow, not bad.
Well, I wonder if they'll flip him in the order tonight.
Yeah, might not be a bad idea because he is, I mean, even when he's getting out, he is making solid contact, and he was, talking about swinging wildly. That's Giancarlo Stanton, but all of a sudden, if you would have told me there will be one guy in that lineup other than Gleyber Torres, because I still have PTSD of what he did to Cleveland, just setting the table every game. If there's one guy amongst the 3 between Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton that will sizzle or at least have a major impact. Now, mind you, Juan Soto did. Aaron Judge had his moment in the Cleveland series especially, but someone consistently, I'll just come up time after time. I would not have thought it'd be Giancarlo Stanton. My money would have been on Juan Soto.
Well, Soto's got the immaculate bat flip, and he's the only guy I know that wears 2 waffle things on his hands.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, you just never know. Protect his hands.
I mean, Judge's history is swing and miss. When he makes contact, it goes a long way.
Yep.
But there is no history of him turning it around. I don't know that they can win this series without him turning it around. So good luck to the Yankees. But Otani will be back tonight. Screw you people that think there's a wussification of America.
Yeah.
Or sports. Otani says, not so fast, my friends.
Oh, and I was worried that it was his elbow when he came down because
I thought it was his wrist initially.
Because at first he's holding his wrist in his forearm, but then when you watch it, you almost see, and I wonder if that's what caused, because what the subluxation is a minor dislocation, so it's not the real bad one or what usually can be an AC joint too, but you can kind of see his elbow come in a bit. That's why I was like, ooh, because anything from the elbow when he was holding his wrist and then he started moving around his forearm, I'm wondering that might be really significant. But to hear shoulder, I was actually thinking, that maybe this isn't bad.
So my buddy who does the charge of the Dodgers PA.
Yeah.
So I texted him yesterday and he's like, he kind of walked around and he goes, sometimes Shohei plays to the.
Okay.
Because I was trying to get a scoop. I was trying to be Buster only and passing that if Otani was going to play or not.
So you're telling me that he felt something, but he stayed down there a little bit for a little bit of the theatrics.
He knows how to do it.
Okay. Hey, you're a hot commodity.
Also, the other thing that people will wonder today, because I think we set a new precedent with Game 2 of the World Series at Dodger Stadium. When Ice Cube came out of the outfield wall and he did the long walk while he was rapping, which is not easy to do. I've tried that. Okay. It's not easy.
You have?
Yes.
Okay.
So tonight, the Yankees have to top that, right? Is Jay-Z going to be there?
Yeah. See, there you go. Get Jay-Z coming out.
Because you can't bring back Sinatra.
No. Jeez. Why'd you go there?
Well, that's a factual.
Oh, yeah.
You can't bring back Sinatra.
No.
So you got to go to
Yeah, you'd have to go Jay-Z.
Like Jay-Z.
Yeah. I think you can go Jay-Z. Who else would be?
That's probably pretty limited there.
Yeah, I don't think. To have the same type of impact. Yes. Do you think Jay-Z would do it? You think it's going to happen?
You could ask, I don't know, maybe Fat Joe. Fat Joe is a lifelong Yankee fan.
How great is if you counter Ice Cube with Fat Joe?
I mean, Diddy was also a Yankee fan.
Wouldn't that make sense, though? If they have Ice Cube, Yanks have Fat Joe.
We are a fat country.
I just don't feel like you're putting them on equal planes here.
I wouldn't say that Joe is fat.
Fat Joe?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't just
Maybe
get that
back in the
nickname
day.
out of the blue. It's not like one of those guys they called Tiny because he was really big. I mean, he was Fat Joe at one point. What are they? Big Boy, the big radio DJ in L.A.
He's a big man now.
Big dude, but he actually shrunk quite a bit. So, I mean, at some point,
Shout out Ozempic.
I haven't seen Fat Joe lately. I don't know what he's pushing, but
Fat Joe
he was festively plump for a while.
Fat Joe he looks like a fullback. Yeah. Not all fullbacks are fat.
No.
Look at the Macavickas.
Actually, you're right.
Hopefully that gets me
okay, so
a deal.
I just saw.
I got a shoulder thing.
Smart.
You do.
look-
You got a subluxation? I just looked at a recent picture of Fat Joe. You're right. Fat Joe has trimmed her down a bit.
Fat Joe going to be changing that F to a P. Evan Bland from the World Herald joins us next. All right, mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy here as well. And Evan Bland of the World Herald has been so kind to give us some time on Monday. He joins us now after returning from Columbus, where I'm sure that he had a Frappuccino and a McFlurry up in the press box. Good morning.
Good morning. I won't tell you how many strawberry smoothies I had, but it was more than 1.5. They just keep bringing those things out, so you could see I wasn't the only one kind of sneaking back and grabbing one of those things. So,
Evan, it was a good game. What are you doing? You're supposed to be watching the game, man.
This was pregame.
Oh,
This
okay.
was pregame. They bring it all out there. The food buffet was kind of like a hotel breakfast. Like it was, the eggs and the diced tomatoes and whatnot. But the McDonald's drinks, that was the thing in Columbus for sure.
Yeah, it's it's kind of crazy because they offered up to the Nebraska fans quarter pounders from McDonald's. They did not offer that up to the Ohio State media. Strange. Okay.
Hopefully everyone's feeling good today.
So the post game, Evan, Matt Rule is in a spot where he just got here and he's coached the football team for 20 games, and he's talking to people that have gone through it for 20 years. So he's got to balance the present with the future, where there is kind of the old versus new Nebraska battle of it's about the process, but at some point you have to climb over the wall and get to results. What was your reaction when he decided that was the moment after that game that Nebraska was in it to win it, that it was time to have some sermonizing in a post game?
Yeah, it was. I can't think of another post game similar to that where he talked for almost 20 minutes and very little of it was about the game, which turned out to be way closer and more exciting than anybody thought. And I thought it was some reflection. I thought it was some talking to his team. I thought it was some talking to Troy Dannon and some of the other administrators that were in the room. And we kind of talked about it a week ago. Like, this game to me felt like it was going to be a culture game for Nebraska after what happened in Indiana. Either that's the team that you are, or you refute that, and you refute that in a big way. And I thought that's what Nebraska did. Even in defeat, they pushed back strongly on this idea that they're 49 points worse than some of the top teams in the Big Ten. And so I thought that was Matt Rule coming out and really trying to make that clear to his team. Like, that was, he talks about the championship mindset that he saw for the first time. And, just a lot of really interesting little nuggets on their own about how hard it is to come up and talk about growth every week or things that don't go correctly without naming a kid or putting a player under the bus. Just really, it kind of reminded me a little bit of maybe the Colorado game from last year out in Boulder, where he's saying no to the officials. He's saying, no, I'm going to answer every question. I'm here. I'm kind of, deep in my own thoughts here, deep in my own process. And so it was just very, very fascinating. It'll be interesting to see how he follows that up here today with his press conference. And we kind of joked afterwards, we don't even need to meet today, because that usually the message that he gave Saturday is the sort of message that he would give on a Monday. So the follow-up will be fascinating, but definitely a coach who was immersed in process and saw a step, and I think wanted to articulate that to his players and the fans.
Where do you think Matt Rule, when he goes back, watches film, watches that game on Saturday, he looks at the opportunities that were there, the opportunities that were lost, but also ultimately how this offense functions? Where do you think he is when it comes to either being on the same page with Marcus Satterfield, or this offense with the lack of identity on how he would want to fix that, how as the CEO and head coach would want to address that? Where do you think that could be right now in the season?
Well, I'm not sure it's something that's going to be all that different for the home stretch. I know fans kind of bemoaned the horizontal passing game, and Ohio State, blew a lot of those up. But I think a lot of that goes back to, hey, you want to be conservative. You don't want to, give away possessions, and Nebraska really didn't do much of that. I think that's one of the reasons they were in this thing to the end. They won time of possession fairly handedly. They broke off a few runs. You look at the number of rushing attempts they had, it was pretty much on par with what they've had in recent weeks, but they were able to break a few of those. Dante Dowdell had a couple moments, and Emmett Johnson had a couple moments. The penalties helped out a little bit on some deep balls. So, I think the offense kind of is what it is. You saw some of the same staples with the sweeps and a little bit of Heinrich Harburg and a little bit of Dylan Raiola in the deep game. You saw Thomas Fidone involved a little bit more. I think it just comes down to what they're going to have to do in the offseason, which is find guys who are able to make explosive plays. And that's to me where the difference was in this game. Was Ohio State was starting 3 former 5-star receivers, and every one of those guys made a play. And on a day when Ohio State couldn't really move the ball that well, they had a 60-yard touchdown and a 40-yard touchdown through the air. Nebraska was sort of in the same boat. They couldn't sustain a lot of drives either, but they didn't have that explosive playmaker, whether in the backfield or a guy who could, just have a catch and run for a long score. That's the thing that's been holding them back is, it's hard to put together a 10-play drive, a 12-play drive, and finish that thing. It's a lot easier if it's 4 or 5, and you have a guy who can make a couple defenders miss and go the distance. So I think that, of all the areas that Ohio State and Nebraska are different in, that to me was the one that made the difference in this game. Was Ohio State had those playmakers to make up for some offensive struggles, and Nebraska didn't.
What was the difference between defense at Indiana and defense at Ohio State? Because I don't think there's going to be anybody else in the country that's going to be able to slow down Ohio State's running game like Nebraska did.
Yeah, they tackled better. They swarmed. I thought what Tony White said a week ago about schematically, just he didn't feel like he put his guys in position to where there were 3 or 4 hats around the football on a given play. I think we saw that quite a bit. Ohio State was complimentary in the postgame about some of the calls that Nebraska had, specifically some blitzes that they were running right in the area that Ohio State wanted to run. Will Howard, kind of the quarterback, was just kind of like, I don't know how, I can't really explain that. They were just ready for that. So some of that was coaching and preparation and scheme. You talk with some of the players afterwards outside, and they said, it was mentality as well. Like they just, for whatever reason, weren't up or ready for that Indiana game. Maybe the Hoosiers' talent surprised them a little bit, but I think they were definitely anticipating what Ohio State was going to bring. And so, that's kind of the ultimate question now in November, isn't it? Like, what Nebraska team are you going to get? Are you going to get that team from Bloomington? Are you going to get that team from Columbus? Is it going to be something in the middle? And it sets up this scenario now where, man, you could realistically say, hey, Nebraska's they could win all 4 of these last games. They could lose all 4 of these last games, depending on how they play. So, it kind of reminds me of what Matt Rule has said about progress and improvement. And it's not sort of this linear path upward. It's going to go up, and then it's going to dip a bit, and then it's going to go up a little bit more. I think that's what we're seeing from Nebraska. And if they can level that out a little bit, find some consistency in the home stretch, I think they're going to like, how this month of November plays out.
Ask you the question of a similar situation, and you just said it right there, the month of November. Nebraska goes into last year's same situation. Do you feel confident this team is better equipped to have that better November than they did a year ago?
I think so. I think they've been through it a little bit more. I think this is a tougher team than they had a year ago. I think the offense is certainly in a better place than it was a year ago. I mean, UCLA this week to me has all the vibes of Maryland last season. A struggling team. You're at home. Like, this is the game. You gotta bag that bowl eligibility before the home stretch with USC and then these 2 teams in Wisconsin and Iowa that you just had trouble with over the last decade. So I'll be curious to see kind of how the mentality is from that program, because again, this is the game of the last 4 that you would think Nebraska has the best chance to win.
Yeah.
Do you kind of come out uptight and knowing what's at stake and knowing that, man, this is your chance, you better not blow it, you're at home? Or do you play loose the way you did in Columbus and just kind of have that attitude that you don't have anything to lose? And that's one of those psychological pieces that Matt Rule's been fighting at Nebraska for so long. He talks about the here we go again stuff, but I think there's also this piece of this is that moment. There's this weight on the program with the bowl streak, and this is a chance to alleviate that pressure, to take that narrative and throw it in the trash and move on to something new. This is what they built their whole offseason on, was last year's November, chasing 3. You lose 4 games by 3 overtime, and 3 points. This is the chance to show that you have more depth, that you have a stronger culture, that you're physically, in a better place than you were a year ago. So it's an ultimate test. I think So I don't think they're going to go over for whatever kind of bold prediction that is. And if they are able to win a couple of games, man, that's going to show some discernible progress, especially for a team that during this bold drought is 5-22 in the month of November. Man, what a mark.
Oh, yeah. No, that's you slipped that in there, but that's true. And you go, geez. So I want to, about progress, because I think what people would like to see to bounce to the bowl and off season is some consistency. I think we'll call it agreement. The defense was a little bit of an anomaly against Indiana. That's a really good offensive group, but Nebraska didn't play well. They got back to doing what they do best, and that's just doing their job and playing free and easy. But on offense, if you're going into November and you kind of you know what Nebraska's up against defensively, I'm going to give you offensive line, quarterback, running back, the collection of wide receivers. The top one that you think that when the month is over and we talk to you after Black Friday, that you'll be able to say that was the position group on offense that I thought made the most progress in the month of November. Which one would it be?
The most progress in November? That's an interesting one. Like from where it is now to where it could be. I'm gonna say running back could maybe just in part because that's a group that maybe has a lot of room to grow. I think the offensive line is something of a known quantity.
Yep.
A lot of older guys. They've been steady. They haven't been really all that high or that low this year. You'll probably see some growth from Raiola. I think the receiving group kind of has been what it's been as well. But we saw flashes in that Ohio State game. I think of things that we hadn't seen a ton of in the running game. I thought Dowdell did show some explosiveness and got to the second level a few times. Emmett Johnson, kind of the same thing, was able to make guys miss in short yardage and gain some there. So that's sort of been the narrative about the running backs this season has been maybe the holes have been there. They haven't been huge, but they've been there. And can they make a guy miss? And so I think we saw a little bit of that ability from those guys against a really strong Ohio State front seven. I mean, that's been a top 10 defense all season. So yes, they're going to see defenses that are good, certainly over this last month. I don't know if they're going to see any as quite as good as what Ohio State has been. So I would say when you look at what Dowdell is doing, he's still just a sophomore. Emmett Johnson, this is his second full season. We'll see if they get Ramir Johnson back as sort of a change of pace guy. And then they have some depth there too, if they need it with Gabe Irvin. So I think that's a group where you're going to have to make something happen, get some yards after contact, make a man miss. I still don't know that that's a group that you feel like can hit the home run ball and go 70 or 80 yards. But I do think it can turn what's been 2 and 3 yards into 9 or 10, and that can be enough to loosen things up for Raiola and the passing game and all these other things. So I'll take what's still generally a younger running back group to improve from what it's been so far.
That's an interesting answer too, and I think you bring up some good points there. I want to go back to an element that did show up in a positive manner, and I find myself curious what the play would have been or what the overall decision would have been. We've been talking about that first drive in the second half. If Nebraska doesn't get penalized on a third down, it would have been 3rd and 1. Or I'm sorry, it would have brought up a 4th down and 1, and you're deep into Ohio State territory. They end up getting penalized. They have to go for it on a 3rd and long. Dillon gets sacked, so you're that's no decision you're kicking. And they get the points. I'm curious, Evan, if it's 4th and 1 in that situation on that opening drive, is there any hesitation at all to just get the points and to maybe go for it? And B, the 3 field goals, including that 54-yarder, how does that impact the decision-making if it comes back down to those types of moments where Nebraska has been prone to go for it, how that maybe changes this offense based on what John Hull did on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all kind of part of the same answer, which is what Hull did in the first half changes how you manage a game. Like if he had missed, the shorter kick in the first half, and maybe they didn't have the kick at the end of the half, like I think Nebraska probably goes for it straight up, just because I mean you haven't seen anything that would allow you to trust the field goal kicking operation in the game, but because of what he did in the first half, and he didn't just make them. I mean, he made them with room to spare. He made them right down the middle. I mean, they looked like NFL kicks. And so I think that gave him confidence. It gave the staff confidence. I mean, and that's, that was one of the big revelations of that game. If Nebraska kicking had been what it's been most of the season, Ohio State runs away with that thing, probably. The game's not as close. They're not playing as tight, probably, Ohio State. And so, I mean, that thing could have gotten away. But look at Hull. I mean, coming on, and the snapping was good from Aiden Flegge and Ryan Buschini with the hold, and so they figured it out. But that's absolutely one of these key pieces of what you look at in November now, where, as you said, Gary, like the defenses are going to be really good. It's probably not going to be a lot of 1st to 30 games. Maybe USC could be one of those, but the other ones, I don't think will be the case. And so you're going to have to play the field position game and get your 3 when you can. Again, like the team all year has been chasing 3 because of what happened last year. If you have a guy who can give you 3, that can flip everything. So of all maybe the positive developments from last week, probably the one that gets overshadowed a little bit has been the emergence of Hull. And I mean, that allows you to redshirt Tristan Alvano if you want to do that now at this point with 4 games left.
Yep.
That gives you confidence in what Hull can do. He's done it in camp. He's done it in practice. The fact that that's translated over into a game is a huge deal for this special teams group that's been trying to find any kind of way to make plays.
I got about 2 minutes here. Baseball question from one of our listeners now that fall ball is over. And this is more my question, but he wants us to talk a little baseball with you. After fall ball, the 70% of the innings that are coming back, still trying to figure out some spots in the batting order. Is this pitching at Nebraska good enough to get Nebraska to hosting a regional
already
next late May?
I think it's in the conversation. Yeah. I mean, first of all, 70% of your innings back is a high number in the portal era in college baseball.
Yeah. Yep.
Beyond that, they're quality innings. When you talk about leading the Big Ten in ERA, I think they were second nationally in terms of walks allowed per 9 innings. So they're not just innings for innings sake. Like they're good innings. And so you lose Brett Sears, but you gain potentially a frontline guy in Ty Horn with what he's done. They're looking at Jalen Worthley potentially as a starter. You have guys back with a ton of experience in Will Walsh and Drew Christo. TJ Coates was a JUCO transfer who's looked really good. And I think the other kind of sneaky part about it when you talk about the staff has been, what's the back end of the bullpen like? And they haven't had really that stopper that you feel great about since Schwellenbach in 21. They feel like maybe they have that guy in Luke Broderick, who's another JUCO ad. He's a big swing and miss arm. Tucker Timmerman is a sophomore now who I think is going to be, set up for a really strong sophomore season after he kind of faded late last year. So you have options at the back end. You have an abundance of starting options that should carry over into the midweek. And that's probably the area that you look at, right? Because Nebraska's tended to take care of business on the weekends. They've had the Friday and Saturday guys. It's been, what do you do on a Tuesday or a Wednesday?
Yeah.
And I think in year 2 with Rob Childress, with some of the depth they've developed with some of the freshmen that have high upside, Carson Yasa is another interesting kid who redshirted last year, 6'7", hardest thrower on the team. Like, what does he do? So they just have a ton of outs, I think, a ton of, arms that can help them in a lot of ways. So the best teams have depth of pitching, and you kind of can score in different ways. And I think Nebraska potentially has that. So a lot of that, we talked about the Rob Childress effect last year. I think that deepens and takes more hold now in his second year back in an on-field role.
Great stuff. Evan, we appreciate it. Enjoy today. We look forward to you and Tom interviewing each other.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
That's Evan Bland from the Omaha World Herald.
It's you with already the hosting question. It's October, Gary, and you're already asking about hosting.
No.
You already want to know, is the staff equipped to host in October?
The little general thinks so.
Yeah. Hey, you know what, though? To the question of just the pitching staff alone, not just the guys they have coming back, the lefties that they have coming back too. And I mentioned, if people haven't seen Jalen Worthley lately and the size that he's put on, just the good muscle that he's put on, he looks like a different dude. He looks like a man. I'm a big Mason McConaughey, but the other guy that he brought up that I'm also following his summer and getting a little bit of the vibe over the summer from some of the coaches, Ty Horn, he's got a chance to make a huge impact this year too. Yeah.
All right, Jacob Bigalow. He's made a huge impact on many people. He just doesn't know it, but we're about to find out how many of those people there are. He'll join us next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. Hey, there was a little recruiting news. First broke by Greg Smith of Rivals that Chase Lofton, the tight end who had committed to Florida State from Millard South. He's been committed to Florida State for a while. Of course, his dad played football at Iowa. Iowa's not in the picture. Hawkeyes are out. Is going to take a visit to Lincoln this weekend for the UCLA game. A little bit of a pleasant surprise.
I was a big Deshaun Foster fan, I heard.
Huh?
I'm kidding. No, that was a joke. Not a good one.
When you are 1-7, people are like, But be curious to see how large Nebraska's high school recruiting class is. You know, they got a bunch of young tight ends, but Chase Lofton would be a take. He would definitely be a take. Yep. So he will be on campus for a visit this weekend. It's time for our weekly visit with Jacob Bigalow, who once visited Nebraska and stayed for a while. He joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. People do like to forget that I did kind of go on like an unofficial recruiting visit to be a college basketball manager. So your intro is true, technically. So I appreciate that. But how are we doing today?
Hey, good. How are you? every time I've looked on YouTube TV lately, or YouTube, you are doing a show for somebody. Are you charging by the hour? Because it's, Jacob Bigalow will be joining us. We're going to talk preseason about it. Jacob Bigalow. Jacob Bigelow's on this. I expected to look up at the morning show on NBC this morning and see Jacob Bigalow somehow just making his way to New York to be on the show. I hope you get some money.
Not quite, but when you've got the time that I've got as a young person looking to get the word out about what I'm putting out when it comes to this sports stuff, and you've got plenty of free time, I'm more than willing to talk a little shop with some friends, and I have kind of been all over the place recently. And basketball season starts in a week, and will continue to be all over the place. So that is unfortunate news for some people, but for other people that enjoy what I've been doing, there'll be plenty of places to find my stuff in the coming months.
With that said, before we get to basketball, let's don't beat around the bush, because there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that is being shared about the game on Saturday. I don't need to really see the graphic today. Did we really get beat that bad? Because Ohio State would say, man, if we lost that game, because look, we were in control. But when you hold Ohio State to 21 points in their house, and you force 5 punts, force 1 for 10 on third down, even with things that ail you and some officiating calls, doesn't Nebraska have to win those games? Doesn't Nebraska have to find a way to win those games when that opportunity is presented to them?
Absolutely. I mean, if your defense is going to put you in that kind of position, I mean, you would want to be able to take advantage, grab the opportunity by the horns, and win that football game. I feel like it's kind of felt eerily similar to that. I forget if it was the 20. When was the last time they played there and lost close? Or was that in Lincoln? It felt eerily similar.
21 was the C.J. Stroud 405 yards passing.
JoJo Domingue.
And Nebraska lost by 9. But then in 18, Frost's first year, they went there and they were in it till the end.
Yeah, it felt eerily similar to that 18 game, kind of. Just the defense putting them in a position to win, and then just not being able to seize that opportunity. And that was everything, that went into that whole mess of the season. But it did feel, eerily similar in that way. But after what happened in Bloomington, hell of a bounce back, hell of a response from Tony White's defense, and it was coupled with a questionable day at the office for a supposedly $20+ million NIL team on the other side. But this is not Ohio State sports talk. We're here to talk about Nebraska. But they were in a position to seize an opportunity, and they were not able to seize it at the end of the day.
I asked Gary this earlier. I want to ask you the same question. When Nebraska takes the lead there in the fourth, and maybe even a better question, when Nebraska gets the ball back trailing, at any moment did you think about, what am I going to say when I'm on the many shows that I'm going to be on in the next 24 hours? What am I going to say because I think Nebraska is going to win this game? Did at any point you entertained that thought?
No.
No believers.
No. And that's, I can call me Debbie Downer, can call me sour grapes, whatever. But as a child of the Callahan era, and someone who has kind of had the worst time to possibly grow up around this football program, it was tough that thought did not cross my mind. It kind of, was just waiting for a shoe to drop in some way, shape, or form.
What happens in okay, let's look at the month of November. I want you to do this. So project what the record is going to be in the month of November through the prism of the quarterback. If the quarterback stays the same, gets better, regresses, if you look at it through that lens and what you think is going to happen with Dylan, what is Nebraska's record on the morning you wake up after Black Friday to start opening up early Christmas presents?
It's tough to project Dylan right now, because I think he's dealing with an ailment or two that has been that's been one of my takeaways, just from his footwork, his posture, how some of those throws look. I mean, that throw on the interception that, sealed the game, that came shortly after he, was, holding his shoulder. I think if he throws a better throw, he has Nayor, and they just, wound up dying and getting picked off. But I mean, it's tough to project based on the prism of the quarterback, but I mean, I think they go, I mean, right now I'd say they go 2-2, just based on, what I think about the opponents that they have coming up. And I think, 7-5 would definitely be a talking point. But if they get what they got on Saturday from the defense, I mean, they're going to have a shot in all 4 games. It's just a matter of, the situation on the other side of the ball, and especially with number 15, and if he's healthy, and what his situation is, for this last month of the season.
Gary brought up this label, and I think it's appropriate. Never thought I'd say this. Dylan as a game manager. So I'm gonna have a different version of Gary's question here. As a game manager, can Nebraska get to 7 wins this season?
I think there's a world where they can. I mean, that's definitely.
Do we live in that world?
We might find out on Saturday. Okay. That's for sure. We might find out on Saturday if we're living in that world. I don't think we're living in the world of the offense that we saw in September. That's for sure. That not just has to do with the quarterback. It has to do with quality of competition and how some other guys have gone about their season. But I mean, we might find out on Saturday against UCLA. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint and project anything that has to do with the offense right now, just because of it's not just the quarterback's health, but the run game remaining not. I mean, it felt perplexing at the start of the year. Now it's just the reality where vision is where genuine running back vision is like a question that we have to ask, and people will debate who the best running back in that room is, and my response is does it really make that much of a difference? Sometimes, I don't. It's tough to it's tough to project anything that's to do with the offense. But I mean, I think there's a world where if Dylan is in game manager mode, they can win 2 more for sure.
All right, let's shift over to basketball. You remember that day when you went to a theater camp when you were a little bit younger and you won the award? They gave you a certificate for having the best jazz hands. You remember that, Jacob?
I was never awarded for my jazz hands, but younger me did have them. I can't confirm.
Oh, okay. So I don't think you would call Nebraska basketball this year, who they occupy some space. I don't know about the foot speed on this team, but they do occupy some space. I think they're going to be okay defensively, but I was impressed yesterday, and it wasn't just Worcester, who I think by the end of the year it'll be him and Bryce Williams as the 2 top players on this team, and that's a good thing for Nebraska. Is that they're going to be really good with guarding, playing defense, slowing the game down, but also getting hands on balls, cutting off angles. I loved what they did yesterday on that side, that end of the floor.
Yeah, the second half especially. I mean, I think they wound up with a total of 13 steals. They forced 19 turnovers. I mean, I know given it was a D2 opponent, but that's not your typical D2 team. They Grand Valley State had a couple guys on the roster who were low mid-major bounce back guys. So they started their career off at D1s, and now they're playing at a really good D2 athletic department all around. But defense kind of remains one of my biggest questions, not just yesterday, but for their season as a whole. It's kind of defense and outside shooting are the questions that I've got. And one of those questions was not particularly answered well yesterday. But I mean, I agree with you. I mean, just the length that they've got, the experience that they've got, I think they'll be a pesky, defensive team for sure. And I think they've got options to, change throw some things at you defensively, schematically, as the season goes on. I'm interested to see how, it evolves on that side of the ball.
I think their length and being able, it looks like they're going to be able to switch 1 through 5.
Yeah, personnel dependent for sure. I think they definitely, when they have a guy like Morgan on the floor, I think they'll be able to switch a lot. And with some small ball lineups, I don't know if with their taller lineup that switching would be a great idea. But it's definitely an option. They got a lot of options to play with.
I don't like their tall lineup. I thought I would be like, wow, this doesn't happen in Nebraska very often. I don't like that tall lineup. I don't think they can play that way. I just think they're not super fast.
But are there any lineups where they are super fast? Like, I don't really know.
No, it's going to be it's going to be an adjustment compared to last year. I mean, I think they're going to, you alluded to their perimeter shooting is going to be a mixed bag. And I know we're talking about an exhibition game, but I'm looking at past history and how they fit. I think they're going to be energetic. A lot of Sam Greasel type plays on defense this year that'll stand out more than anything offensively.
Yeah, that's not a bad place to start. I would tend to agree with you. I think there's definitely. I mean, you've seen flashes of like what I think they want to be, what they could be. You've seen one big shooting day from one Big Ten transfer, another big shooting day from another Big Ten transfer. I think those guys making shots is going to be a big part in like determining the ceiling for this team. And obviously, we're talking about an exhibition against the D2 and inter-squad scrimmage in a volleyball arena. But I mean, I think that there's there's some things to like, and I think it plays into a reason why they have another light non-con to play with lineups, to play with rotations, to see what fits best. And I say that, but then they still really just have the 3 bye games to start, and then it goes to St. Mary's, Creighton, and a 5-day span. So. We'll see how the cookie crumbles for them.
I want to ask you again about the 3-point shooting because last year, you got a lot from Rink Mast in this department too, but also with Casey's 3-point shooting. And then this is where the CJ Wilcher effect off the bench was a nice thing to have given the way that he shot for the most part of the season. If you're in a similar situation, obviously no Rink Mast, but let's say Connor Esiason is supposed to be the guy to make up for that production. Do you feel that having the complement of some guys coming off the bench, mainly a Gavin Griffiths, could actually be an upgrade to what CJ Wilcher gave you when it comes to just the 3-point shooting?
I think it could be, yeah. I mean, I think on paper, I like this roster from top to bottom more than I liked last year's roster, just in terms of the experience, the potential lineups, the versatility. I think this. I think on paper, this team has more potential, and I say that after last year's team finished 3rd in the Big Ten and went to the NCAA tournament. But I think that this group. There's more guys who, it's just so many guys who can, seem to be boom or bust. I mean, if Griffiths isn't hitting shots, how much is he seeing the floor? If Esiason, the question is defense. The question with Berke Butengel is also defense, and if he's not, making shots. I mean, there's just there's a lot of questions with some of the new additions, but there'll be a game where I think a bunch of guys are hitting shots and they run somebody out of the gym. There'll be clunkers that look choppy, and Bryce Williams has to put the team on his back. There'll definitely be a variety of results and how they come to be with this Nebraska basketball team.
How is college basketball starting 1 week from today?
It is almost November. It is almost November. And it'll go under the radar for a couple weeks unless you're, like me, with the end of college football. And then, there's something going on a week from tomorrow too that I think will have plenty of people's national
What's going on a week from
What's
tomorrow?
happening?
Maction.
No, what
do you know?
Yeah, Maction, right?
Oh,
that's what I mean. Maction. A lot of attention on states in Maction country, that's for sure. But it'll fly under the radar for a month or so, unless you're really dialed in. But there'll be some big marquee games, especially even next week too. But I'm excited. It snuck up like usual, but it's it's my favorite time of the year, so I'm not going to complain.
All right.
Who are you voting for? For the game you're going to watch on Tuesday is what I'm asking you.
What did you just do?
Well, people forget Tuesday night is also the first CFP rankings reveal.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's what I meant. Who are you voting for to be number 1?
People are wondering where you stand politically, so you can get an article on the Spun.
No, that's exactly what I need. That's exactly what I need. The deep dive profile on me. That's exactly what I need.
All right. Enjoy a week from today. We'll be watching Baylor, Gonzaga, and Spokane. That'll be a banger. Texas, Ohio State, and Vegas. And Doug Gottlieb going back to Oklahoma State.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And then around here, it's UT-RGV week. They play in Lincoln on Monday. They play in Omaha on Wednesday. Rio Grande Valley week around here next week. So, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's exciting.
And
Omaha and, I forget who they play.
I will buy you lunch if you know who they play.
York University.
Well, you're a week late because they play them tomorrow night.
I knew that. I don't know who they play after
They are
that.
bringing in, straight out of the state of Oklahoma, Mid-American Christian to open up the year.
Yes. That should have been a guess.
Quinnipiac plays at Yale. Mid-America Christian plays at Baxter Arena.
You don't just walk into Baxter Arena either. You don't just walk into Baxter Arena to open.
Oh, not the
That's
Backs.
right. Tell those South Dakota Coyotes from last year. All right. Be good. Have a good week. Anything new coming up on the pod, or like a preview that you want me to come on, or what are we doing?
I wouldn't mind having you on here again soon, but I'll have my thoughts and takeaways from yesterday pod up at the end of the day today.
Is that what the pod is called? My
no,
thoughts and
just,
takeaways from yesterday pod?
It might be. That might be the
I like
title. I might try to. I try to get a little creative with the titles from time to time. Okay. I try to not be boring. But that'll be up on your feed at the end of the day today. I'm trying to have a big preseason roster schedule breakdown talking about Nebraska, and then that'll hopefully be out before the opener. And then thankfully for anyone who sees me on social media, I will not be at the football game this weekend, so no football tweets from me. But I'm sure people are breathing a sigh of relief for that statement. But we'll have some podcast stuff up before the opener, and then we'll be kicking it into high gear next week.
One final one here. Bruce is now really, really interested in what you weren't going to reveal. He's curious, the kind of mail you're getting in your mailbox right now, what party is it from?
Don't just go off of that, actually.
It's a good mix. It's both, actually. It's a
Jacob's
good
an independent,
mixture of both, yes.
All right.
You can buy Jacob's vote.
So,
all right.
I am for sale. I'm so bored. Yeah, I'm like a NASCAR driver or a NASCAR car. I am for sale. I am easily purchasable. So
sell out.
All right. Well,
that's me.
have a great week with just you, your cat, and your candy corn. All right, my friend.
What was that?
I believe gas.
Is that like a Vuvuzuela?
Hey, be good. That's going to be a drop from here on out. Thank you, my friend.
What did he just combust?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have mentioned that his cat. The candy corn he can live with. Yeah.
Shout out cat though.
Yeah.
Then you just gotta. I can't even do that. What just happened?
He's
there?
one of my favorites. Biggs is going places.
He was on everything last week. Every time I turned on, I saw something up on my feed. I'm like, hey, Jacob Bigalow. Oh, we're going to talk about this with Jacob Bigalow.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're going to talk about the world and politics with Jacob Bigalow.
Issues and answers with Jacob Bigalow.
We've had a firing of a coordinator in a Power 4 school.
Sorry, folks.
Ted Roof has been fired as the defensive coordinator at UCF. UCF has lost 5 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
People are wondering, has the Gus bus run into a traffic jam on I-4? Tell you, if that job opens up, the first call I make is to Scott Frost.
Yeah.
I bring back Scott Frost to Orlando in the Big 12.
Yep.
But Gus has fired his defensive coordinator. UCF started 3-0. They've lost 5 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ted Roof, who I think has
worked
has worked at every school in America, has been fired from Central Florida. Speaking of another thing about college football, did any of you guys see the GOAT track that San Diego State is playing on?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so San Diego State and Washington State played a wild game.
Yeah.
And Wazoo, by the way, 7-1, no shot at the playoff. But the field in San Diego looks awful.
It
is a GOAT track.
How does that happen?
I actually did watch that for a few minutes as I was trying to numb what I had just watched prior, and I thought either my TV or my eyes are bad. And what is that field?
This
the
is Snap. Are we talking
CW?
about Snapdragon Stadium?
Yes. Look at the field from that game. What's wrong with the field? In San Diego, of all places.
What am I? How is that possible?
That's the question I asked.
Listener Jacob on the stream, don't know where that noise came from, but I do not own a cat, and I am all the way out on candy corn.
Wait a minute, listener Jacob?
He's listener Jacob now.
Oh, that's that.
Hey,
okay.
This is the week, man. People are like gearing up.
Let's get him a cat.
We're trying to get everybody on the same page. Everybody love everybody. Except this week it's not going to be easy to get people on the same page this week because there is a candy corn conflict in this country.
The amount of I'm trying to get over this field. The amount of divots on the field right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Something happened
That's
there.
bad.
Do they play soccer there?
Wow.
Don't they have
They have goats grazing.
I think they might have a women's professional soccer team that plays there.
Okay.
But I was watching that game because it's now one of the rare late night window games. We don't even have any of them. There are no games that start after 7 this weekend, even though we get an extra hour of sleep on Saturday in college football. But
that sucks.
There must be other sports going on because that field looked awful.
That's really bad.
In all places, San Diego, where they grow grass.
Yeah, they do, and they do it
all
well.
kinds.
They do it well. And it's very splendid. Wow, that's really bad.
It's not where Nebraska's growing their grass for their stadium, but it's close.
Yeah.
All right, 9:20. When we come back, we need to stop doing something in this country that we continue to do that this weekend proved that we need to stop this.
Driving 10 miles under the left lane.
No, I'll explain.
Must be an Omaha thing.
I'll explain, but we got to stop doing something that we love doing in this country. And I'm going to tell you what it is when we come back on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. We'll get some emails and some tweets catching up on the show. Hey, do you remember when Nebraska joined the Big Ten and there was that long-standing policy to generally not play November night games?
Yeah, I totally remember that, yeah.
Are you hinting at something?
Well, I mean, that was Delaney's
deal.
That
was Jim Delaney.
Wasn't Gene Smith, didn't he say, we're with you. We're not going to put our fans in that position.
Yeah.
It's going to be 60 here on Saturday.
Well, so both of Iowa's home games in November are going to be at night.
Yep. Nebraska.
Wisconsin this weekend, and then, of course, the Nebraska game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Temperature probably will be a little bit different from the beginning of November to the end of November.
I'm assuming so, yeah.
Maybe.
But we've seen 70 degrees on Black Friday before in Lincoln.
But welcome to the new Big Ten.
I know, I like it. I like that.
Big Ten is boring, though.
Well, you got to get used to if you're going to host a primetime matchup in the college football playoff on your campus. You got to get ready to have those lights on every now and then, too.
Winterize the stadium.
True.
Big Ten football is boring.
The
race to the top is boring. The Big Ten football right now has a bunch of 5-3, 4-4, 3-2, 2-3 teams. Yeah. I want the chaotic nature of the Big 12, where the top 5 teams in the preseason are a combined 7-18. And I hope he's not listening. Do we need to apologize to the guy in Boulder?
Peggy's going bowling.
They have.
I won
since that game.
I won some money because I took a future on Colorado winning 6. I took the over, which they'd already hit before Saturday night.
So you're fine.
Do we need to? Do we need to? I don't. Maybe not apologize, but maybe recognize that, you know what? Kudos to Colorado. Their run defense is better than it was in Lincoln.
Yep,
he got him there.
They are quieter. It's almost like the Nebraska game changed Colorado football.
I agree.
Now they
were humbled.
They yap and they like the celebrities and it's showbiz in Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
But they have been really toned down since Nebraska.
Yeah.
And maybe they're just focusing on football. And if that's the case, their silence has led to their success. And they are bowl eligible. So thank you, Colorado, because it's on my point of a step in the Matt Rule era.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska needs to have on the ledger bowl teams that they beat. So Colorado is on there. I worry about Rutgers. Rutgers started 4-0. They've lost 4 in a row.
Yep.
And if you look at their final 4, it might be tough to find 2 there. So thank you, Colorado. You actually helped Nebraska. Our RPI for the March Madness Committee.
That's a quality win right there. Quad 1 right there. I continue to go back to the word humble. I think with going all the way back to as soon as Deion Sanders had his post-game press conference, he was very un-Deion-like. He was more Deion Sanders and not Coach Prime. And even leading up to their game against Colorado State, there was Colorado State doing more of the trash talking than Colorado was. Now, Colorado clapped back a little bit, but they weren't initiating it because they just took a whooping and they were taking the cue from their head coach of we flat out got beat. And he gave Nebraska that credit. But you're right. From that point on, that was not the normal flash that you see from Colorado promoting their games and doing the things. Now, there's always going to be the staples you mentioned of the celebrity appeal and the sidelines always having the entertainment value. But as far as running the mouth leading up to a game, you brought this up where you said, and the K-State game was a good example, where you mentioned even going into the Nebraska game that when they think there is a pretty tough challenge in front of them, they tend not to say as much, the players and the coaching staff, mainly Deion Sanders. And you notice that in the Kansas State game, but I've actually noticed that in every game they've played. Central Florida, Arizona, just hasn't been saying a lot. I think that game humbled the crap out of them. And to your point about if that is now put the onus on just the actual football itself and not the other stuff, that's a dangerous team.
People are saying this is for the second time in the history of Colorado football. Nebraska is the best thing that ever happened to Colorado. I'll ask Bieniemy when he's here this weekend.
You should. I would love to know that response. Make sure you preface that by saying longtime Chiefs fan.
Yeah. We got rings.
Wear your championship hat.
We got rings. Well, and I mean, he could have been the head coach of Washington. You guys could have had Dan Quinn as well.
Mm-hmm.
So could have my team.
Okay.
But they let him go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I hate football.
There's something in America that happened yesterday that we need to stop. This isn't political, so you don't have to turn off the radio. Hang
National
on
Tight End Day.
People are waiting for that.
Why are people that build statues bad at their job, especially that build statues of sports people? The thing that happened to Dwayne Wade yesterday in Miami is unacceptable for a legend. You know what? And also, I'm going to go a step further. There are a couple of things that are benchmarks in my life. Okay. I am creeped out by mascots that don't wear pants. I am also really uncomfortable that we build statues for people that are still alive.
I'm sorry. The Dwayne Wade one is bad, but I can't get over the Ronaldo.
Well, it's like
the Ronaldo bust.
There's like a competition.
Like the worst
There's
thing
like they're like Dwayne Wade looks like Lawrence Fishburne, and like what is worse, the Dwayne Wade statue or Ronaldo?
The Dwayne Wade one might be worse.
We need to stop.
Who doesn't love Lawrence Fishburne?
I know.
I loved him in Boys in the Hood.
Dwayne Wade and Lawrence Fishburne are not the same person, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's a problem.
That's my team. That's my team, baby. Heat culture.
It's so
that's
bad.
3-time champion in 2006 Finals MVP Dwayne Wade.
They somehow made Ronaldo look like sloth. I never thought it'd be topped, but I'm pretty sure the Dwayne Wade one got
making statues of people that are still alive in sports. People that make statues are bad at their job.
Yeah.
That is awful.
It's not good.
And it put Dwayne Wade, who has given so much to the Miami Heat and the community, you unveil it, and he has to see it for the first time, and he goes...
You have to act like you're excited.
Bro, that looks nothing like me. And he actually even said that. So it was really, really awkward. They have to fix this.
Yes.
But are you guys with me?
I am.
That we need to, first of all, we need to stop doing statues in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to stop having statues of people that are alive.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if Dwayne Wade is, we would look at it differently. But I'm just,
I would look at it worse.
It's weird to me that we put up statues of people that are alive. Like even, I think Saban is with me on this. I'll have to get a hold of him.
That's
but
good.
I think when they put the statue up outside of the stadium, like T.O.'s statue. Now it includes Brooke Behringer, and that's a little bit different. It wasn't just a T.O. statue.
Right. You know the one that actually recently was pretty good was near and dear to your heart, Ryan Sandberg. I thought that one was actually pretty good. It looks, for the most part, it looks a lot more like him than the Dwayne Wade one.
No, I mean, a lot of things look a lot more like him.
I don't think the Ryan Sandberg one was too bad.
Yeah.
Maybe I brought my bar down a little bit. Especially, I hadn't yet see the Dwayne Wade one yet.
Now, the Bob Gibson one out of Warner Park
That's pretty good.
Is pretty good.
Yep.
But I just, something about, we're doing statues of people that are still alive.
Bad for him. He looked like he was straining, if you know what I mean.
Now I got to look up the Ronaldo one again just to get a good chuckle.
I mean, the statue's ugly. I'm not afraid to say that. I don't know who the sculptor was. That statue just ugly.
Make a big Lego.
That person is bad at their job. But people that do sports statues don't do them very well. And I don't know if it's because, I don't know, like,
I think the same with some of the Hall of Fame bust.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
yeah,
really?
I guess the Ronaldo one was more of a bust. It
up?
wasn't a statue.
But imagine if you're on a statue and that doesn't look like you.
Yeah.
Like they have to replace it, right?
Yes.
I mean, they had one thing that kind of bugged me, and this is just being a Dwayne Wade fan. They gave him a beard.
Yeah.
So he didn't spend the majority of his, like when he got older and was on the Bulls and the Cavs, he was a bearded fella.
Yeah.
But our Dwayne Wade didn't have a beard.
Yeah, he didn't have a beard that much when he was playing for the Heat. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. But you got to look.
I did think of you when I saw this.
You got to look at the reaction when they unveil it.
Yeah,
like I would imagine.
Oh,
that would be my luck.
You have to try to fake it. And
no, he didn't. He didn't. He was like honest.
Yeah.
He's like, it doesn't look like
who
me.
Did he say like?
Did you get a discount on this?
Who the hell is this? It's not even be like,
2 for 1.
Who the hell is this?
You know what?
Good question.
Maybe we need to do this.
He had a good role in Boys in the Hood.
Hey, just do statues of mascots.
There you go.
Like
Bernie,
like outside of Morrison, they have Billy the Blue Jay.
Yeah,
you can't mess that up.
No,
and it's not like Billy's going to get upset.
That's true. He can't say anything.
Yeah,
I mean, what's he going to say? Can't talk.
Good point.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Anytime there is a really, really bad one. And then also, I know this isn't the exact same comparison, but when I think of things that have gone horribly wrong when it comes to trying to depict somebody, whether it be in statues, I'm also reminded of the one time you had the artist depiction of Tom Brady in court, and that person did the sketch of Tom Brady.
Yeah,
that also looked like Tom Brady, who, wow, I didn't realize Tom Brady had so many facial deformities, but apparently he does, according to this artist.
The football's a rough game.
It was really, really bad. Listen, maybe we just need better artists. Better
well,
artists.
This is what happens when you kill the art programs in schools.
Maybe. Maybe that's a problem.
True. When we come back, we'll finish up with some emails. And also, do you think that Nebraska publicly will comment on the officiating from Saturday, which would involve the athletic director, Troy Dannon?
Wish he would.
Do that before we're out of here at 10 on 1620 The Zone. You know, we may just have a situation here in Omaha where we actually do sports statues like they're supposed to be. It has been brought up by a couple of people already. How about the College World Series statue? That looks pretty close. Brian O'Connor, Warren Morris.
It can be done.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be done.
Maybe just in Omaha we do sports statues well.
Yeah.
Some emails in the Equitable Bank inbox. This is from JD. He said, poor Ohio State's O-line. Guys, why isn't the media, Big Ten, make such a big deal about Ohio State having to go to their third-string offensive lineman? That is such a factor for them, then why does it go completely unmentioned that Nebraska is doing the same exact thing? By the way, did you know that Gunnar Gatula at left tackle now has nearly 300 snaps? Those are the 9th most snaps on offense this year. Poor Ohio State. Must be rough. They better get that fixed. Thanks, JD.
Yeah. Henry, by the way, we were talking about who should match L.A. rolling out Ice Cube. We said Jay-Z. He said, don't need Jay-Z. New York has Billy Joel. That should be sufficient. Good show, Henry. Thank you, Henry. Said we don't need.
Henry is a frequent emailer.
Yes. He was at the Alamo Dome on Friday. I think Dad went to that. I should check in.
Henry or Billy Joel?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Billy Joel.
Henry's
Billy
is true.
Joel, Sting opened up for him.
Yeah.
All right.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Pete and Papillion.
Hey, Pete.
Gary, I want Rule to change his philosophy from get a lead and run the clock to get a lead and keep going. I think our success starts with aggressive passing game. I think you alluded to that, Nick. It sets up running. Let Dylan be Dylan. Let her rip. That's my insertion. I'd rather lose by trying to win than lose by trying not to lose. If we're a good team, we should win 3 games in November. UCLA, Wisconsin, Iowa. There's no reason why that can't happen. That would put us at 8, which we'd all take. That is from Pete. Thank you very much, Pete.
I think the moral of the story, but more than anything, you said last week you were intrigued, you were interested of the response. I think the same can be said this week. Interested in the response of where there were a lot of positives that you were toe to toe with one of the best rosters in college football and the most money that roster that college football can buy. It's got to mean something. It can't be like, oh, okay, yeah, there was good effort there. At the very least, that tone has to be the same thing. And then if you do a lot of those things you did in the game, yeah, I think you're going to like the result, but it has to mean something. Speaking of Ohio State, Buckeye Jim, I have very mixed feelings. I'm happy for my Buckeyes, but disappointed that the Huskers didn't. Nebraska deserved to win that game. They had more passion, while Ohio State looked flat, and those were bad calls. Even the fans sitting around us next to the press box agreed. Ohio State can redeem itself when it plays Penn State and Indiana, but I can tell you that my son felt very proud of the Huskers when we left the horseshoe, and the fact that I didn't get into any fan fights, defending him, indicating that even Buckeye fans had much respect for Nebraska's performance.
Or hit by fireball coming out of the stands.
Yeah, fireball, plastic. They were saying plastic water bottles, but then you saw other plastic bottles that were coming
There were
out,
a couple of Nebraska media members that got pelted because they were down on the field for postgame to go over to where Nebraska was doing postgame.
Yeah, wear a helmet.
Yeah,
it's like Philly.
There was stuff raining down, not necessarily at them, but they were in the firing range.
Was there any fireball that was still left in those shooters?
No. What media member at Nebraska would have picked it up and drank that fireball?
Ooh.
I will start with...
I would go to you for the answer, Gary, because you know them all. So
I think in a sneaky way, Brian Christopherson would have said, "You know what? Going to take a little of the edge off."
Shout out BC.
I would have taken a shot of that and thrown it right back in the stands.
He also said, by the way,
for more.
he said, P.S. I never found the fluffy/flurry machine, but the Buckeye Sunday was pretty good. And then, of course, there's a picture of Buckeye Jim, who is wearing just a plain white pullover, no Ohio State logo whatsoever.
Just say football.
Really?
Was he just a Big Ten fan that day?
Okay.
He said he had one underneath. But
do you guys realize that there was a monumental social media mistake?
Every day.
Instead of W, did it say L?
Before the game by Ohio State, the Ohio State Athletic Twitter account. So the Fox pregame show, Urban Meyer is there.
Yeah.
So Ohio State, they wanted people to share their pictures of their experience.
Oh, dear.
And they put out a tweet, "Hey fans, we want to see your game day pictures. Use hashtag #BeTheBestFans to be featured on the video board." They posted a picture of an Ohio State fan that had a picture of Urban Meyer. The picture of Urban Meyer that this fan had was the Urban Meyer when he was grinding on that co-ed at his steakhouse. And they posted that to their official account.
Nice.
And then they deleted it like 30 minutes later because they realized where the Urban Meyer picture came from.
Yeah.
What are your favorite memories? You don't see Ryan Day doing that.
Hey, man, the guy's just grinding every day.
It's a great show on MTV.
I love it. Part of me feels bad for the social media team when you're sifting through all the pictures and you're just trying to put that stuff up there as fast as you get them. And then afterwards you realize, oh, that's not a proud Urban Meyer picture that we should be donning right there.
Michigan State last year.
Because isn't where that happened? That's in Columbus, is it not?
Yeah. His steakhouse.
Which is now closed.
No, yeah, I was going to say no longer there too.
Yeah. Ironically, Shanahan's still rocking.
I wonder
in
who
Denver.
caught that first. Do you think Urban? You think Urban saw that?
No.
Like, wait.
I
he's
think
got a filter.
I think somebody that's got a good sense of humor, like, whoa, that picture isn't from Urban on the sidelines. That's the picture if you expand it.
Yep.
But they posted that and then they took it down about 30 minutes later. I'm not gonna lie, because I wanted the Ohio State smoke. That was in my draft.
Nice.
Oh,
Nebraska,
You were ready.
Yeah.
Nebraska would have pulled off the victory.
That would have been a good one to have.
I was ready to sit on Big Red Overreaction and just block and mute people
Yep.
all day.
No context needed on that,
Yeah.
too. Just
Call
post
him
that
John
picture.
Rothstein.
Mhm.
Mark writes in about statues. So I spoke too soon, which usually happens, about statues in this city that are good.
Yeah.
He says the Marlon Briscoe statue is bad. Upper body and lower body are not proportionate. Looks like he's wearing body armor in chest and abdomen. Throwing arm is gigantic. To be fair, sculptor did a good job on the face.
But isn't the face the key? I think in a lot of these ones that we're having some fun with, it starts with the face. The Ronaldo bust is as bad as it gets. The Dwayne Wade, I mean, I think the actual everything else on the Dwayne Wade statue, as far as his body, is fine. It's the face. You're right. Like, I knew it didn't look like him when I saw this over the weekend, but now that you say Lawrence Fishburne, that's exactly who it looks like.
Makes me feel better now about it. Celebrating the man's entire
kind of.
film catalog.
Yeah, kind of.
Bob writes
I don't know
in.
if Dwayne Wade would feel that way.
Dwayne Morpheus Wade.
Bob, hey. I was there for the unveiling.
For the Dwayne Wade one?
No, the Marlon
Oh,
Briscoe
okay.
one.
So that's impressive.
Yeah,
And they have it. They have it now at the one end of Caniglia Field where students walk by going like to Sapfield House
Mhm.
or to other parts of the campus.
Mhm.
There were some people that had some reactions, and one of the great gentlemen, Marlon, was there for the unveiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one person in his crew, I guess you would call them, that were like, and they're like, nope, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Keep it moving. Bob writes into the Equitable Bank inbox.
Hi, Bob.
So I asked way at the beginning of the show, if you went back and rewatched the game and you already had some angst about the OC, did anything you saw change your opinion? So Bob writes in, no change on the Saturday debacle. You got to wonder what Rule thinks quietly to himself when Nebraska goes for it on fourth down and the Superman leap somehow didn't land. Rule only gives, you know what? That was so predictable because of the personnel you had in.
Naked bootleg would have been wide open.
Oh, my God, Nate. I said that right away.
I damn near texted you that naked bootleg.
I
He
said
walks
this has
in.
the setup of they're going to run a naked bootleg and Dylan is going to walk into the end zone. But instead, from the 2-yard line, Superman leaped. And you know what? If he doesn't leap and cuts to the same outside.
Oh, goes to the left, yes.
Oh, yeah, left.
You cut that back
to the left.
You cut that back left, and there's
there were a couple-
nothing there.
But that was, we're asking the wrong running back to do that.
Yep. You're asking for vision.
The Superman leap didn't land. Rule and gives up the sure 3 there because he knows the defense is playing well and they will still end up with good field position, get another crack at 7. Defense holds and NU gets the ball at the Ohio State 42 and still manages to come away with 0 points. The offense goes from taking a shot at 7, giving up a sure 3, and ending up with nothing in a game where Ohio State is playing C- and Nebraska has them on the ropes. To be fair, it was Raiola on the second attempt to get 7 who threw into very tight coverage, missed a well-executed pick play, and then got sacked for a big loss when the O-line couldn't handle the pressure. Just another way to die for NU. The methods and approach may change, but the results remain the same.
Everything about that's fair.
You did say if we die, we die.
So here is the Monday Brandon Vogel offensive stat.
Oh.
On 80,
These are usually really good.
On 80, this is encounterread.com, and Brandon will join us in his regular spot on Wednesday. On the 84 offensive drives this season after the Ohio State game, 28, that's 33.3% of those resulted in points, and 7 of those scoring drives, 25%, required 6 or fewer. By direct comparison to the offense Nebraska just faced, Ohio State has 80 drives this season, 40, half of them, ended in points, 24, 60% of the scoring drives required 6 or fewer plays. As Brandon's article this morning is, was you satisfied with Saturday?
And isn't it amazing, though, the score and the situation that Nebraska found itself in late in this game, where they had a lead and then they had a chance to regain that lead to win the game. But I said this on Saturday. I think we're beyond the whole moral victory. I mean, 2021, that's all it was. Best three win team. Oh, moral victory, cool. Like
you and Hodson should have a segment where you just talk like that.
He could be 1940s guy with that. I would listen to that.
No, Otson really gets into the moral victory.
The Husker fan is like, oh, whoa, me, throw another flag.
That sounds like Millhouse.
That was actually pretty good. But there is something to be said about if you were to lay out that scenario and not give a score, but just say Nebraska will have the lead late in the fourth. They'll give it back up, and then they're going to have a chance to drive for it. You would have thought Nebraska played a pretty damn good game and offensively probably took a major step forward.
Yeah.
Isn't there some – this is going to cut both ways. Isn't there some encouragement that they played far from a perfect game offensively to the point that even in some moments you're like, what the hell are they even doing? And yet they were right there. Now, where it cuts the other way is, do they have it in them to play a better game offensively than what they showed on Saturday?
I'm not sure, Nick.
I don't know, but hey, GBR, get bowl eligible.
I think here's the problem.
That's a little James Carville.
We got to have some
That is James
have some
Carville.
on-field performance. We can talk all we want about results. We're going to talk about the process, but at one point we got to have on-field performance. We got to have results on the field. We got to hold people accountable. If you're going to tell me about this and this, I'm going to hold you accountable because I got to win from football games. 5-3 just not going to do it. At the worst, you could be 6-2, and I'd already be bowl eligible. And you know what? I could relax in November. I got other things to worry about. But now I got to worry about if Nebraska's going to be UCLA and become bowl eligible. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. You know what? Here's the deal, everybody. We're solid, not great. It's just week by week. You never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates, but instead of here, it's like a box of Huskers.
How'd you turn into Terry Bowden?
Not sure.
You sound like
Like
Terry
the
Bowden.
old
now.
the Valvoline halftime report.
But how about that John Hole doing his part? Good old John Hole.
Dad always said.
John Hole hit a 54-yard field goal, and my grandma came back from the dead. She was like, I didn't think this would ever happen in Nebraska.
Who put it on the SEC
Now,
network?
I got a question to finish the show because Matt Rule speaks later today.
Yeah.
And he's not been a guy to go after the officials because he always prefaces it like
he needs to.
So do you think Troy Dannon will talk to the Big Ten? So Troy Dannon, there is 2 calls on Saturday where he, with a couple of his other administrators, they're standing outside of the team area. They're not in,
Like on the sideline?
He's not standing next to Rule going, run a counter with Harburg.
It would be cool if he did.
You know what? Run Dowdell into the hole and Harburg directly behind him. Run some quarterback power here. He's not doing that.
Signal then, Troy.
He's outside of the coaching, the team box.
Yeah.
He had to restrain himself one time from marching towards the official.
Yeah. Wasn't that during the was that the offensive pass interference, not the spot?
It's very Mark Cuban of him.
That was, why can't we be handsy in Columbus? It looked like the former football coach was.
He didn't say that.
Thank you.
But do you think Nebraska will make some comment today that they have sent Will Rule?
Yeah. He'll be asked about
We've
it.
sent clips off to the Big Ten just to get a clarification.
Yes, he will, because he'll be asked about it, and I don't think he's going to completely say I can't comment on that. Because look, more coaches need to do this. Hell, Ryan Day, if he felt he was wrong too, he needs to. More coaches need to do this. It's awful. Officiating in college football and even to the pro level is awful right now. It's terrible. There needs to be accountability. I don't care if they get fined. They shouldn't care if they get fined.
Rule should say today, hey, everybody wants to talk about OPI. That's their problem. I'm into OPP. Naughty by nature, that's what we're going to be. You know what? But if we're going to have a discussion about OPI, then let's get deep.
Good Lord, that was awful. That was so bad. That I know that the spotting was just some of the most basic stuff that you would think they could get right. The OPI probably triggered me even more because it was so bad.
Hey,
I mean, it was terrible.
You know what Rule should have done to the official when they called that? He said, "You down with OPI?"
But do it like how PJ Fleck said to the official that
Yeah,
way.
you know
You down
me.
with OPI?
Yeah, you know me. That headset's coming. Every last homie on our sideline is getting screwed by what you're calling today.
Every last homie.
All right. This will continue tomorrow at 6 a.m. Again, Matt Rule speaks later today. It is UCLA week. It'll be a little bit different. Have UCLA here in November.
Yeah, that is true.
Not going to be November.
Embrace it.
It feels like a game where if Nebraska doesn't turn it over, it's 24-14, and Nebraska's going to a bowl game for the first time since 2016. That's what it feels like to me, but I'm not ready to go there yet. I got to get inside of the metrics that tell me that UCLA can't run the football, which does not bode well for the Bruins against Nebraska's rush defense.
True.
For all our great guests, from Ben Otte to Evan Bland to Jacob Bigalow, for Jimmy, for Nick, I'm Gary. We're back in tomorrow at 6. The crossover with the for hire Connor Happer is coming up next on 1620 The Zone.